What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Omni-sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in Marvel as the Flash? The Fastest Man Alive. Part 2. If you enjoy this type of content, please speed punch the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Remember to check out the original story linked in the description. Let's get into the rise of Marvel's Scarlet Speedster without further ado. The Fastest Man Alive. Hero time. With a quick spin, I deconstructed my pants and constructed another pair with pockets. Not just regular old pockets. I went for the combat scuff-proofing pocket. I had also decided to upgrade my pants, since the ninja pants were no longer needed. This time I was rocking my take on combat pants. It was tight around my ankle and calves to keep anything from running up my legs. The front and the back of the knee had interlocking panels with padding to keep my knees flexible, yet allowed fluid movement. I wouldn't want to knee someone in the face or smash into a wall and mess my leg up. With the way life happens, who knows what might happen. With the pants all settled in, I was so juiced to go out and kick a mugger ass I almost made another screw-up with my excitement. "Alfred buddy, can you get access into the city's cameras and police scanners?" I asked my new AI sidekick. "Why certainly, sir. May I ask why?" Came his question. "This is going to be my base of operations for my hero gig. I will need access to everything I can get my hands on to save lives. I have big plans, Alfred, and it all starts here today." With that said, I turned to find myself a comfortable Bluetooth headset. The headset I found had a flexible over-the-ear holder with a mic extension that would come down the side of my jaw. This improvement would do just great. But finding a good pair of headset with 80% charge also reminded me of changing my ninja mask now. Just the fact that I had to change my pants and mask was a sign telling me that I will have actually to make clothes. This whole reconstructing thing is all fine and fun, but its functionality is extremely low. This line of thought also opened another window for me to explore. Batman had his utility belt, and if memory serves me right, he needed all of that, and so did Spider-Man. Alfred buddy set a note to build a suit like my Speed Force construct, and also gadgets to help bust up a crime. I spoke out to him as maps and images kept popping up on the screen. While I was doing my musing, it had seemed Alfred has blasted past whatever the city had called a firewall right into the metro systems. Every camera across town was taking up the left 2 monitors. Alfred even had one of the monitors with a city map that had an overlay of cop cars as blue and red going around the city. And he also had the names popped up right next to them with what appears to be the comms radio channel each car was on. "Since you plan to embark on this endeavor, would you like me to make recommendations on useful gadgets?" Alfred asked. "Sure buddy, I also have some ideas we can hash out since you don't have to go to school like myself." With that resolved, I brought up the webcam so that I can get a better look at myself. My ninja mask was excellent with the new improvements I made for the Bluetooth, and the pants fit great. With a thought, I flared up my lightning up and around my hands. "Oh yeah, they don't even know what's about to hit them." "Alright, buddy, link up to my phone then Bluetooth and hit me with an alert." With that, I blasted out of the warehouse. It was time I took the lead of the coming storm. I was halfway to Manhattan when I got the ping from Alfred that the police were chasing a stolen blue BMW through Hell's Kitchen. Honestly, I was expecting a mugger in Hell Kitchen caught on camera, not something along these lines. Yeah, I can handle some stolen car, and with that thought, I took a sharp turn across West 43rd Street back towards Hell's Kitchen. Soon I was upon the blue BMW, but this car had some issues. You could see where the guy had run into something in his mad dash to escape. Now I was in a position to think. Generally in the show, the Flash and comic The Flash would dismantle the car around the person stealing the vehicle. Yeah, that's defeating the purpose of getting the car back, so that option was out. Granted, that option was foolish in the first place. I can't run on comic lore here. Cause whose ever car this is needed it back, and I doubt that insurance covers a metahuman dismantling job. This car recovery is going to take some imagination and flexibility. So I just ran up next to the driver's side, and damn was I in some super luck today. This moron had the window down in the car she just stole, and it just had to be a lady. Ugh, I can hear the feminists screaming now, so it's time for equality for all. With that thought, I popped the lock and yanked the door open. Lucky for me, I was going speeds no one could ever hope to keep up with. The car thief turned in such a slow motion scream, it would have been hilarious if this wasn't such a danger-filled situation. The thief's life was on the line. the cops chasing her, and whoever was out here on the road with us, if I messed this move up, would all be in danger. With a yank, I pulled the thief clear out of the car and threw her back into the back seats. Then with a shake of my body, I sent a Speed Force clone to the cops' car to absorb the kinetic motion they were producing and then shut down their vehicle while I did the same to this one. With my hands on the hood of the BMW, I only focused on the kinetic energy bringing the vehicle up to a halt with the police pulling up right next to us. First, they looked at the car, then they looked at each other, then they looked at me and the BMW. That was when they jumped out of the vehicle and aimed at my chest. "Freeze, hands up." They both yelled simultaneously. I wasn't going to wait on them at all, I was already moving at speeds they couldn't even see. I pulled out the car thief and cuffed her with their handcuffs. Then I placed her in front of them, and I was gone. I circled back around and perched up on a roof overlooking the street. "What the? Did you just see that?" asked the first cop out of the car. He had to have been a solid 5 feet 10 inches, Hispanic descent from the way he sounded to my ears. "Yeah, I saw him also, he was just there, then he was gone." "Do you think they're gonna believe this back at the precinct?" asked the partner of the first cop. "Yeah, we still have those new body cams, right? So they have to believe this," stated the Hispanic cop as he approached the thief in front of them. "I am not sure who stopped you, but lady, you chose the wrong day to steal a car and go for a joyride." And with that, he picked her up and started to read her the rights. That was a rush. Talk about adrenaline fix, yanking her out of that car and then stopping both vehicles before they had a chance to collide. That was awesome to the max. Now I need to find some more stuff to stop and get my name out there. "Talk to me, Alfred, what else do we have?" I was far too excited to stop now. I am looking at a few muggings in the sight of 6 cameras in Queens, and what seems to be a building on fire. Dispatch says firefighters are 3 minutes out. "Which would you like, sir?" came Alfred's voice from the Bluetooth. "I'll take them all, so put it on my phone's map." With that, I was off to stop the 6 muggins and rescue people from a fire. The first 3 muggers were easy. I was able to catch them with a shoulder check that I had to slow down for. Otherwise, they could have gone splat against my body, and it wouldn't do killing anyone that hasn't done me any wrong. The second 2 had a gun up to a car trying to get the car's occupants to give up their wallets, and it would have worked if I wasn't doing my hero gig today. The last one was standing there with his knife at some big dude. This brought me up to a stop, and I ran up the side of a building to see how this was going to go down. Sitting on the ledge, I watched as the dude that was supposed to be mugged just picked the knife-wielding guy up and threw him against the wall, then walked away. Well, that was something I should have guessed, that I wasn't the only super around these parts. Well, it is the Marvelverse after all. With that out of the way, I shot off towards the location on my map marking the building that is currently on fire. I ran up to the top of a building about 1 block away while I watched the building I was supposed to run into and save people go up in smoke. The firefighters were all lined up in front of the truck, even had the ladder out, and they were trying to get into the top floor. This fire was going to be a bad one, I could feel it. This situation was one of those moments I wish I had a mask to help keep the smoke out. I know that as soon as I slow down my speeds, I'll be breathing regular oxygen again, which was now mixed with smoke. Well, crap, being a hero is a part of my plans, so I can't choke now. It's time for some maximum effort. With that war cry, I was off towards the building. I ran along the roof of my current block of buildings and launched myself into the air. My current aim was the roof of the building on fire. I was going to start from the top floor and then work my way down. Hopefully, this will keep me from missing anyone. Man, I wish I had some gadgets to help me right now. Hell, I would even go for some backup for this situation. I dashed through the air for the building, hoping beyond hope that I can pull this off, because in this situation I had more than 1 life on the line, and the people had to be saved. I couldn't fail here, it had to be done. With a bolt of lightning charged Spartan kick, I had the roof door clean off its hinges. Within the first clang of the door against the wall, I was already dashing my way down the stairs. Smoke was pouring out of 3 of the 5 apartments up here on the 5th floor. I had no clue how and where the damn fire was coming from, but that wasn't the issue for right now. Right now, the goal was to save someone, just anyone, and I'll know from there. I was into the first apartment door I came upon, yet it was empty. It was a lovely place, a nice 60-inch flat TV, and what looks like a super comfy couch. Such a shame it was all on fire. I had checked the bathroom and under the bed just in case before I had to blast out of there, and checked the next 3 apartments. These apartments were also empty, but I did find a little old lady in the 4th apartment. She was sitting there in her old lady bathrobes with dandelions printed on it with her house shoes. Yeah, this was going to be a cinch. Picking her up in a princess carry, I was on my way back up the roof to head down to the front. I had a realization mid-stride she was going to need a seat. With the old lady in my hands, I ran to the front and then found the nearest firefighter. "Sir, do you mind holding her for a second please?" I stated as I handed the granny over. He just looked at me stumped, but I had no time to explain myself. With a twist, I was off back towards the build up the side and back across the roof, then back into the old lady's room for her chair. I got her chair and made sure I had the cushion for it. With its awkward holding position, it almost broke as I bolted for the door. That would not have been funny at all, with that little stunt past. I brought the chair back up to the confused-looking firefighter with the granny in his arms. With granny in her chair, it was time I stopped slacking off. I was back into the building again, on the 4th floor this time. This floor was still all smoky as the other, but all the apartments were empty. This was a plus, so I went for the 3rd floor. On the 3rd floor, I found people on the floor crawling under the smoke, so I picked up the first and rushed them out to the front of the building. I kept this up until I had them all. Then as I was checking the apartments, I found a kid crying in one of the closets with a lady passed out in front of him. The fact that he was in there crying wasn't what drew my attention. What had my attention was that fire was spewing from him up the walls and out of the room. Well, I'll be damned, he was a new meta-human. Now this was going to complicate everything. He was about to find out what equal opportunity was, cause I had plans to knock his little ass out and bring him and this lady to the X-Mansion. Looking at all the fire he was giving out, I thought of talking him down. But he was crying far too loud for my taste, so it was time to put him out of his misery. With a speed tap on the back of the head, he was out like a light, and that was the end of his little power hiccup. Bending down, I had to check her pulse. From her mid-30s look, she had to be his mom or something. Lucky for him, she still had a pulse, so he won't have to suffer and mental trauma to go with his powers awakening. Now I had to get them out of here before smoke inhalation causes some severe damage. With the kid tossed over my shoulder, I picked up his mother or lady who was taking care of him. Currently, it was time to leave this hot mess. This time instead of dropping them off at the bottom of the building, I thought it was best to drop them off on the roof across the street from the current building on fire. With the kid and lady deposited in a safe place, it was time I went back to saving people. With a final look at them, I turned my back and went back to the rescue. It was still hero time. Soon as I made it back to the 3rd floor, I found a firefighter trapped under a ceiling beam still on fire. Well, talk about getting worse by the second. Man, all I need now was for the floor to cave in. Creak. When I heard a crack, I knew it was time to stop just looking at the situation and get to fixing it. I sped up to the beam on the firefighter's back and pulled out all the heat energy being produced from the burning wood. With the wooden beam going out, I yanked it from the firefighter's back. With the burned-up wood tossed aside, it was time to save me a firefighter. I did not want to do this at all. Just his gear alone was at least 100 pounds on top of whatever he already weighed. Yeah, I had enhanced strength, but heavy will always be heavy. Although with this situation, it showed me that I had to figure out a way to get my hands on super strength. Yeah, super strength will help me solve a lot of issues in the future. With the firefighter over my shoulder, I rushed him out. I found his buddy still talking with the old lady and tossed him next to them. This action, in turn, causes the guy to jump in surprise, but I paid him no attention. I was back into the building for anyone I could find. Lucky for me, it was all empty, and I no longer had to be in that crazy heat. I was safe while running, but as soon as I slowed down to grab a person, I kept getting hit with a thermal blast. This test is another reason why Speed Force Construct clothing won't do in the hero gig. With my return to the front of the building, I found all the firefighters gathered around the one I had dropped off on the floor. This development was odd because he was not only awake, he was making all kinds of gestures. Being a person of an inquisitive nature, I, of course, pulled closer so that I could hear their topic of conversation. Man, Cap, you can't even believe. I thought I was trapped. I remember being pinned down, and then the next thing I knew I was here. Hell, I thought it was you guys that saved me. I tapped my mic twice on the emergency channel, stated the firefighter with his helm now off. Well, since he was talking about me, it was time for me to go. This ninja mask had no voice modulator at all. Soon as I turned around, though they all noticed my presence, it was far too late though. I was already gone into the sky, and I made sure to circle, so they thought I just up and left the scene. What they didn't know was that I had stashed away a little meta-human kid and his guardian. Alfred, buddy, can you put in a call to the professor for me? His number should be on my phone. Also, add voice modulator and mask filter to a list of things to make or acquire. Thanks again, Alfred. I asked into my headset since my AI should have been on the other end. Right away, sir, and might I add that was a spectacular display and usage of your abilities, sir, came his smooth British voice back at me. That made me chuckle some, but I was already moving and focused on the kid and his guardian in front of me. No cuts or any damage from what I can see, and now that their chest is moving in a more reasonable pace from when I first saved them, that should mean they are in good health. And since I had no scanners to check their vitals, that's all I can go on until I get them back to, and that's another thing to add to my list of things to build or make an acquisition effort. This situation would go so much smoother if Gwen weren't currently upset with me, but them's the breaks, I guess. With a buzz of my headset, which I didn't even know it could do that, I heard the professor pick up an answer. "Hello, good evening. Charles Xavier speaking," came the professor's even voice from the other side. "Hey, Professor, sorry for the late night, but can you get the doc to prep the med lab for an emergency? I have a little meta kid and his guardian. I'm thinking smoke damage from a fire." I spoke up as I picked up the lady and heaved her over my shoulder, then picked up the kid in an underarm sling-style carry. This run was going to suck, and the only way to be safe was to beat feet across the sky because running on the ground would not be suitable for their health. "Of course, I believe Hank should still be down there," came the professor's reply. With a click, the line was already being disconnected. "Alfred, buddy, we have a lot to talk about once this is all over with." I spoke up to what is eventually a small part of myself that I had neglected so I could go out and do hero crap. With a deep breath, I dug deep on my well of speed force power, charging myself up and blasted off into the sky, leaving a trail of golden electricity in my wake. The rush of the air, the power flowing in my veins. There is no way I can ever give up this feeling at all. I felt the build-up, the charge, and then the tingling sensation of it melding with my cells. It was making me stronger, faster, and more durable. This speed force was mine, and I had plans to take it to whole new heights. I have to get my hands on Reed's dimensional tech then, combine it with my imagination mixed in. I'll be able to take the speed force and a few other ideas to a whole new level. This night was productive. I thought as I was blasting my way through the air. Not only was I able to stop some muggings, but I was also able to stop a fire and rescue a firefighter. That should give me some brownie points when I show back up in the public's eye. Then I was able to get my hands on a meta-human kid, and that made me smile, but it was also a worrying thought. If I hadn't shown up with the kid, and his guardian have died tonight? And what other issues out there are caused by kids just discovering their powers? Talk about some crazy unanswered questions. Putting that worrying thought aside, I was trying to enjoy my run through the sky. I had once asked Dr. McCoy how long does it take to get to the city by the X-Jet, and he replied that it only took 6 minutes. Right now I was about to break that record. I only had my supercharge going for about 2 solid minutes, and I was already in sight of the mansion. Out on the east side of the mansion, I noticed what appeared to be Dr. McCoy, the professor, and Storm out front by the basketball court. That could only mean that there must be a hidden hatch there for easy access in and out of the sub-basement floors. That's an interesting thing to have, and also a back door I should make a note of for the future. With my landing, I just dumped the kid on the gurney and his guardian right beside him. "Hey, Dr. McCoy, I have the kid and his guardian here for you to take a look at." That caused Dr. McCoy to kick into high gear after he gave me an exasperated look for my treatment of his new patients. I could only shrug from the look he gave me simply because I had to get them out of my hands some way, and am all about that equality. If I am going to put the kid on the gurney, then his guardian was going to get the same treatment. When they were both out of my hands, I turned out the professor and Aurora to see both of them had raised eyebrows at my actions. Then Aurora scanned me up and down with her eyes, probably wondering what's with my full suit is for and why am I wearing it. "Right," Professor spoke first while looking me up and down. "So do you plan to tell me how you came across the young boy and his mother?" "Simple, Professor. I was out saving my city when I came across a burning building. I spoke to him, keeping constant eye contact." "And what about the clothes you're wearing?" asked Aurora before the professor even had a chance to speak up. This development caused me to turn and smile at her. Yeah, I had piqued her interest all right. She has always been so reserved, steady, and stable, but now I have her showing a lot more than her regular zen face. With a shift, I dispersed my shirt and brought it back a few times to display that is not real clothing but a construct of my making. This is a construct I figured out how to make. You might remember it was what I was wearing when you came to rescue Logan and myself from that hidden laboratory. "So why are you wearing that?" asked Aurora. "Well, I finally figured out my path that I think will benefit everyone better in the long run." I answered her, trying hard not to seem smug. "And that would be?" Came the professor with his question. And with that question of his, I knew I had his undivided attention. I knew he most likely had the whole X-Men thing as some project he's putting together, just no team for it yet. This was my chance to not only have him place me in the group, but this was also my opportunity to make the team my own. I'll do what Hydra did to S.H.I.E.L.D. and take over his team as my own. Even though I know he has his agenda, nothing says I can't use his resources. I plan to be a hero, not just any hero but a major metahuman hero. It's a simple Saturday morning cartoon concept, but I believe it's going to make a major difference in the future. That's a strange take on using your powers, stated the professor with his thinking face on. Just that look, I knew he was thinking about all the implications of my actions. Professor, no one knows about us metahumans until they gain their abilities and/or do their research. You're taking a passive stance and only helping those you discover, but Magneto is out there being an active metahuman disturbance in his movement. No one likes to admit it, but we have all watched cartoons in our lives, and we all want heroes. My goal is to be that hero who will show up to save the day. And in the end, I plan to come out as a metahuman. If I do this right, the city will love me and so will the world. The future I want is acceptance, not fear. And I'll be the poster boy if I have to, so that I can lead the charge and not Magneto. We need a friendly face in the news and not his helmet making the situation worse. Again, you give me more to think about. Came his reply, but I knew better. I knew he was thinking up a way to use this to his advantage in that bald head of his. True, his ulterior motives are good ones, but they are nothing he will share. What gives you the right to think you can be the face of us all? Came Aurora, and damn, I was not expecting her to be so confrontational tonight. No one did, so I took it upon myself to be a face of good in the struggle of metahuman rights. Magneto is already out there doing who knows what, and you guys only move out when you make discoveries or going in to rescue. I saved a building full of people tonight, and the firefighter that went in to save them. That's going to be on the news in the morning. That's my doing, and I am putting myself out there to make a difference because we need the change and not the change Magneto wants to make, was my reply as I stepped up to her. I was so close now, and damn, she smelled amazing. It was some flowery scent I couldn't place. Her eyes were a deep cerulean blue. The oversized shirt she was wearing couldn't hide her chest from standing high and firm with her nipples hardening with my approach. Her lips so plump, I just wanted to push her up against the wall and lay a lip lock on her. She was such a dangerous temptation to me, just like Gwen and Mystique. I had to mind my manners. I was sure this wasn't going to be the first or last time Aurora was going to lash at me with frustrations. I was going to take the brunt of her frustrations. While she didn't know this yet, I was already sure I wanted her. Unfortunately, we were brought out of our little bubble by the professor's chuckle at our byplay. I didn't forget he was here, but it was rude of me hitting on his adopted daughter right in front of his face. Aurora did a sudden turn to leave, which gave me a face full of her luscious white locks as she stormed back into the X-Mansion. This caused the professor to laugh at my expression. He started again, though I knew all these questions were only because he couldn't get into my head. Don't mind her. She is only trying to understand your view and ideology. I believe that might be due to her past, but that's not for me to share. Tell me, Benjamin, why do all this? Things gotta change, Professor. This status quo we have won't last for much longer, and I plan to lead, not follow. With that, he eyed me before he went back inside. I shall think about what I have been told tonight, Benjamin. Thank you for saving the young boy and his guardian. I will inform you once they awaken. And with that, he was gone. No love lost, I guess. I had enough of him being him for one night. So I charged up my body again, then launched myself back into the air. I was heading back to the city with a rictus grin while reveling in the pure joy of my air run. When I made it back to the city, I was able to stop a few muggers and a carjacking with Alfred's help, but those weren't my current goals. I knew he listened to my talk with the professor because privacy is one of the things I'll have to get used to giving up since Alfred is connected to all my tech and gear now. Yeah, I'll have to have that talk with him soon, but my current goal was to hunt myself a drug dealer and relieve him and his safe house of all his cash. Being a hero is, unfortunately, a non-paying job, and I'll need funds for the future. I am not a billionaire yet, and I wasn't born a saint in this messed up world, so I have to make do with the tools at hand. Lucky for me, no one is going to show remorse for a drug dealer getting robbed. The fastest man alive. Robin Hood. In this new hero career that I forcefully decided would be my path to the big time, money was needed. Unfortunately for me though, this was a thankless job with no pay. So I have to make up for that by pulling a Robin Hood on unsuspecting individuals, and lucky for me, I am aware of the most connected individual within Hell's Kitchen. The infamous Turk Beret. With Alfred's help, I already had his location. For now, though, I won't snatch him up. This was a chance to watch from my perch to see what he is up to. I watched as someone was selling off what looks like shoes. I couldn't help my curiosity and held up my phone for Alfred to work the camera, and turns out he was selling Nikes that he requisitioned from somewhere. Lucky for him, he wasn't selling guns tonight. I know I have a few crates and tons of ammo back at base, but a man can never have too much weaponry. Since it wasn't anything significant, I waited for his deal to be over. I might as well be courteous to the man and let him finish his deal. Once I'm done with him, I doubt he is going to enjoy the rest of his night. It took him a full 10 minutes to move all of his stock, and it was time for me to make my move. With him closing the back doors to his van, I was already at him and pulling him with me back up to my perch on top of the adjacent building. Ah. Who are you, dude? I didn't do anything. I'm innocent. Man, this guy can hit some high pitches. He should be ashamed of himself. You should be ashamed for screaming so loud, Turk, I stated while holding him against the ledge. Who are you? I don't have any beef with you mutants, man. Just the mere mention of the word mutant caused me some irritation. The name is metahuman. Get it right or don't say it at all. With that, I forced him over the ledge and held him there. I got it. Don't say the M word, period. Come on, man, I didn't do anything, Turk screamed out. So Turk, I require some information, and I heard you're the guy to speak to, I replied to his panicked look while bringing him back onto the roof. Man, I don't know anything. They lied to you, came his instant reply. Come on, Turk, don't be like that. Everyone knows you're connected to everything. Anything shady going on, everyone knows. Turk knows the 411 on the situation. I spoke to his ego, and he couldn't hide the smile that came upon his face that he tried to hide right away. Yeah, I got his ass all right. Come on, man, if you say that, then you know how the streets go. I give you the info, and I am labeled a snitch. While bringing Turk back upright, I straightened his clothes and let him take a look at me. It was time to shift gears. Listen, you tell me what I need to know, and I can make it worth your time. This perked his attention up, and I could see the gears turning in his head, and that was what was needed to have him willingly give me the information that I needed. It would do me no favors to have to hurt him. Granted, I doubt he even knows his worth. Other than the hobos that I keep fed, he has the most connections with actual answers since he is on the inside and not the outside looking in. What you wearing, man? You one of them Power Rangers from TV? Came his question. This made me frustrated with him as I didn't come here for his quips. Yeah, the bright color is so you can see my foot when I plant it up your ass. Alright, I get it. Don't rock the boat when you're allowing me to float. So tell me what you need and what's going to be my payment for my gold standard information services. Turk replied with a grin. Ugh. This was going to be a long night, I can feel it. I need information on some small-time drug dealers' den locations, and what's in it for you is some cash for pointing me in the right direction, was my reply while trying to be non-threatening since I needed him as an informant in the know. Come on, man, I don't do no drugs. I know you don't do drugs, but you deal with guns, and everyone buys guns. You can give me the dealers, or I can leave you inside of some 5-star prison. That's on me for trying to buddy up to a criminal. Now it's time for the hard way. I grabbed him by the collar and ran us to the top of the Manhattan Bridge. That got his attention all right, and he started back up his screaming. I loosened my grip and shook him slightly to make him think I was going to drop him. This made Turk fold like a lawn chair on the 4th of July, and it was perfect. I'll talk, just don't drop me from up here, man. Turk was screaming out at the top of his lungs. Man, it's nice to make some progress. With that, I ran us back to the top of the building perch overlooking his van. I know of a few dudes off the west end of Manhattan. Yes, 6 dudes working out of a house. I sold them a few gats and some ammo. They didn't even want to buy the body armor, those cheap bastards. Turk squealed out, hoping that I wouldn't take him for another run. Yeah, about time, he cracked. It was already around 11, and I had to make it home before my parents had ideas about my location. Alright, give me the area and our transaction will be complete. There is a blue house over on Avenue C in the East Village. They have a big caddy in the front, can't miss it, cause it's on some ugly-ass rims and with a purple paint job. Came his immediate reply. I have located the group and home he has identified, sir. Came Alfred's immediate answer before I could even ask for a GPS guide. With that, I took off towards the east side of Manhattan, leaving Turk up on top of the building. What about me? Turk screamed out at me, but I was already going over 600 miles per hour, and everything was already slowing down around me. The GPS was trying to keep up with me, but it wasn't the latest nor was it calibrated for the speeds I can go. That would need to be rectified later because I think I can use my aura to affect electronics like how the speed clone decided it wanted to mate with the computers and make Alfred. I was blazing a trail down the road when I noticed a crash on the way to my destination. The money was for my end goals, but my current goal was to keep up this hero job to the big time, and it wouldn't do if I missed an opportunity to get my name out there. Granted, now I recall I forgot to give the firefighters my name. Crap. It was a nasty pile-up on the road. It looked like a Mercedes tried to cut off the truck, and it all went downhill from there, and due to the nature of New York City's roads, it was terrible. I dropped the visions of me getting all the money to focus upon the situation at hand. With a swift turn, I was up the nearest building overlooking the scene of the accident. From my perch, I was able to see the truck overturned on its side leaking some liquid. It also had a bright biohazard sign tanker's side. There are no ways I want to get that on me since this is the Marvel Universe and you never know what that's going to do to a human body. The cars were all in different positions around the truck, yet it just had to be the one unlucky Honda that's on its roof near the biohazard liquid. Great, just my luck. Alfred double-checked to make sure first responders are on the way. Also, but let them know about the hazard. With that I was already moving. I had to be careful with my electric discharge since blowing us all to hell is not the way to save people. It was clear the Honda and the truck were in the worst of the situation, so I aimed for them first. With a yank I pulled the door clear open. This sucked because if I had super strength that would have came clear off the hinges. Now I have to worry about the door blocking my retreat. They make this seem so easy in the comics and movies. Save the day and get the girl. Yeah, that's not how this situation is going down. This was not a hot girl. It was what appeared to be a rug. With a closer look, it was just a very hairy guy, and man did I want to puke. Holding back what had to be my lunch since I skipped dinner like a moron, forcing myself to focus on the human rug in front of me, it was time for action. With a yank, I pulled off a panel from the driver's dashboard and used that to get all the glass out of the way. Then with a foot against the car side, I pulled the human rug hard out of his seat. Ugh, and he was all sweaty too. This was not what I envisioned myself doing when I chose the hero path. Talk about the other side of a hero's life. With the human rug out and clear of the wreck, it was time to get him on the side of the road to safety. Then I performed a full body charge to flush out any fatigue I was feeling. The human rug was moved over to the side and out of the way. First responders are already on route ETA 2 minutes and counting, currently northbound towards your location. Came Alfred's smooth voice. With that, it was time for overdrive, which didn't last too long. But once I cleared out the other cars, it turns out the Mercedes was in worse condition than I thought. This car was all kinds of messed up. The front end was crunched in, and so was the back. The roof was also caved in at an angle, and it was pinned up against the cab of the truck. When I leaned in to take a better look at what I found, it sent a shiver down my spine. When I leaned down, I yanked open the driver's side door, and I found the driver passed out with blood leaking from his forehead. In the back, I heard a scream. What I found was a pregnant woman clearly about to go into labor. This was such an astonishing scene to me. How in the world did she even survive the crash? She was wearing a large coat over what appeared to be a dress with no shoes on, and I couldn't find any in my sight anywhere. It took me 3 whole seconds to crunch the astronomical numbers of the probability of her survival, and damn was she the lucky lottery winner. Alfred broke me out of my reverie on the situation though. I believe she is going into labor, sir. That could also explain the driver's erratic behavior before the accident. Also, first responders are closing in on your location, sir. Came his smooth voice. Well, it was time to move and stop gazing at the situation. Clearing a path, I picked him up in a fireman's carry, and I ran with the gentleman who appeared to be the husband in question. I rushed him over to the sidewalk where I had placed all the rest rescued during the accident. With a nod, I was back at the car trying to figure out how to get the lady out. From the way, the car was wedged in, it was holding up the truck, but any moving of the parts to get her out would severely weaken the supports. This was going to be a genuinely tricky operation. I was worried about going high speeds and what that would do to the baby or her entire labor situation. The only way to save her would be to wrap her in my Speed Force aura, but the downside of that is that I would have to be close, too close for my comfort. That was the only way to save her life with the way the supports were so weakened. With a deep breath, I rushed myself into the car, With a twist, I placed my arms along her side and kicked out hard, sending what's left of the car flying. With my aura flared, it was directed to cover her. With a swing, I brought myself under her position to pick her up in a bridal carry. Up above was still the roof, and this had to go if I wanted to take a steady step. Even with my speed, though, I was able to see the slow crumbling on the back half of the vehicle we were in. Just seeing that in slow motion alone drove me forward. I refuse to die here today at this moment. Heroes never die, and I plan to be one of the greatest, so this moment was but a stepping stone. I kept telling myself that as I pulled one of my hands from beneath the lady. With a focused motion, I blasted the roof clear of the rest of the vehicle and ran out. That was my first time using my lightning for anything other than powering my body. In the TV show, it was shown that the Flash had to do some crazy circle run to be able to throw his. I never wanted to go that route, so I neglected that training a little, so this was a surprise using the speed lightning in such a fashion. Now was not the time to enjoy discovering new abilities. No, this was the time to save 2 lives. I took a moment to look around, and I noticed firefighters were frozen mid-stride towards our location, but they weren't what I was looking for. I found the paramedics a few seconds after I located the firefighters. The paramedics had a few beds located by the people whom I had saved already. The lady was still panting in my arms as I made it over to a free bed to let her down. I was pretty confident that the baby just got a full dose of Speed Force juice, but I would have to worry about that one later. While lowering the lady down on the bed, we slowly returned to natural time, syncing back with all the action around us. That caused everyone to suddenly jump in their spots. The paramedics froze, and I had to pick one of them up and bring them to the lady's side as she kept screaming into the night. "Oh my gosh, this lady in labor. Paul, get over here!" yelled out the paramedic from his position after his dazed and confused moment passed. Well, I guess that was that, and my helping hand was no longer needed here. With that thought, it was time that I made my way to get some cash to help my situation. Before I could even take a step in the direction of my soon-to-be-liberated loot, some firefighters stopped me. "You that kid that saved our brother from that big blaze in Queens, kid?" he asked me. That brought me up short though, because I had no clue that word had even got out about that so fast. "Ah yeah, I had the speed, so why not help?" I replied, trying not to show how surprised I was about them already knowing about that. "Thanks kid, the fact that you're helping instead of being an issue in this city says a lot about you. Tell us, what's your name?" the primary lead firefighter asked me. My brain was still trying to catch up with this development. Spider-Man never got this kind of love, and he saved cops and firefighters all the time. Yeah, that must have been a comic issue or JJ causing that type of treatment to happen. "My name is BBB Lightspeed." "Yeah, my name's Lightspeed," I answered, almost giving him my actual name. I saved it with a hero name. This I had to provide with more confidence in my voice. "Yeah, Lightspeed is going to rock this city." That caused the firefighters to almost laugh at me due to my whole awkward first answer than my actual response. "All right, kid, get out of here, the cops are coming over," he answered me, trying to keep a straight face. This brought me up short, since they are helping a vigilante technically. Well, damn, do a good deed and get rewarded. So much for no good deed goes unpunished. This moment gave me insights I'll have to take advantage of later though. Making myself legal will have to be my big move before the whole Avenger situation, and if I can get it right, this will be able to be used as a springboard platform. With a nod, I was moving again. Having such a chat with the firefighter rekindled the reason why I wanted to do this whole hero thing. I wasn't in it for the glory. This was more than just a means to an end. My goal was to help pave the way for the new metahuman kind. Just getting some glory along the way never hurt, and man was I feeling amazing from just a little bit of acknowledgement. I had to be humble about it, because if I weren't humble, the world would find a way to come crashing down on my head. The lady and her baby were saved, and everyone else was saved, so mission accomplished. Now it was time to put my eye on the prize. "Alfred, is anyone home at the location given to us by Turk?" I decided to ask my oh-so-helpful AI helper. "That dreadfully distasteful purple vehicle is currently in the driveway." "How do you even know that?" I couldn't help but ask him. "I am currently accessing the city's camera at the end of their block. It has such a clear view you would think that they would have been caught by now," came his smooth reply, and that perked me up. I was hoping he hacked a few cell phones, but it seems like he already had boundaries. That had me thinking about how much of the personality matrix made up his actual consciousness. I knew I had taken a look at his code, and it was all fine, but one can never be too sure about what makes up his friendly AI that has control over so much. With that confirmation from Alfred, I kicked up the speed into high gear. That money wasn't going to liberate itself. With a daft jump into a slide across the hood of the cars frozen in the intersection going their own way, I finally made it. I went from threatening a lousy guy to saving people, and now I'm back robbing bad guys. This was turning into such a weird night, yet there will be no complaints tonight. The first thing to draw my attention was the bright neon purple Cadillac sitting in the driveway. The next thing I noticed was blacked out windows on the house. I had watched enough Narcos documentaries to understand that blacked out windows and super expensive cars meant drug dealers' house. How in the world did they even get away with taping newspapers up to the window? This whole thing was sloppy to the max. The house lawn also had not been mowed and the shingles looked all kinds of jacked. Just the state of the house was a dead giveaway. Then add in the neon purple Cadillac, and it's so obvious. Though that's not how the police work. They need proof, etc., etc. Lucky for the cops, I am in a helping mood tonight. With one big jump, I went from running along the road to flying through the air aimed right at the blacked-out window. With what should have been a resounding crash, I busted into the drug den like the Kool-Aid man through a wall. Lucky for me and unlucky for them, the Speed Force aura could be used to silence things. By spreading it out, I was able to coat the entire window and absorb the kinetic energy it released during impact. And since the glass had no energy to spread out during its break, the result was no noise. Oh yeah, using the Speed Force with ingenuity will always be a win. The first thing that caught my sight when the window was out of my way was a table filled with stacks of cocaine. These guys had kilo stacks 5 feet high and 3 piles deep. And beheld, some dude was stuffing them in a bag and he was frozen mid-stuffing. His eyebrows were threatening to disappear into his hairline though. I am pretty sure I could have caused a heart attack with this maneuver. My feet had already touched down as he was slowly turning in my direction, but I was already moving for him. The current aim I had was for his belt since I had no handcuffs or web fluid to capture the bad guys. Another thing I'll have to my list of items to either make or get my hands on. Still, these guys had no clue what was about to happen to them. With my left hand reaching forward, I pulled my right arm back and brought it forward in a savage slap. When in doubt, slap someone. Everyone is always expecting a punch. A quick slap always brings people up short. Granted, the slap wasn't needed since I was already going faster than he could even track or keep up with. But it's always best to strike first and ask questions later. My left hand closed around his belt and with my foot planted on his chest and I yanked hard, pulling the belt clear from him. With the belt clear, I used it to tie him up. After that, his shoes were tied together to make sure he had matching hands and feet. Now it was time to move on to the next one. The hallways were completely clear, and so were the 2 other bedrooms. With them clear, it was time to check the living room and then see if this house has a basement. Since one guy was loading his merchandise, they must have been prepared to move out. Another 2 of the dealers were in the kitchen, and they were also in mid-motion. Today was not a lucky day for them, because they got the same treatment as the guy upstairs, a slap each, and kept each other company because that's how they were tied up, together as an excellent passionate team package. In the living room, though, I found 2 more knocked out sleeping. One had his blanket on the couch, and the other was jumping in his sleep like he was having a nightmare while he was laying back in his lazy boy recliner. They both lucked out since they were already sleeping. It would suck having to wake up to a slap. So it was decided to tie the lazy boy recliner to his lazy boy, and the blanket guy was going to become a hearty burrito. With that all done, I took a look around the house and didn't find anyone else, so it was time to explore the basement. The basement lights were already on, and man was it such a great surprise. These fools had stacks of cash under a fan that appears to be venting all the air to keep everything dry. It was all on 3 pallets covered over with some tarp for both the bottom and top. It was more cash than I have ever seen. The only time I have ever seen this amount of money was from that on Breaking Bad episodes and a few drug busts in the news. No one has ever said how amazing this was to see in person, and it was all going to be mine. While I had dollar signs in my eyes, the bathroom door was completely ignored as it opened. "Who the hell are you?" screamed the guy getting out of the bathroom. With that, he pulled out his pistol firing off rounds, but I was already moving. Crap, got distracted by all that money and got sloppy. This guy had earned himself a few slaps at high velocity, and since the Speed Force gloves were still in play, I would be leaving no fingerprints on his face. After a few minutes to me but mere seconds to him, my frustrations were vented, and he was tied up. Unfortunately, his face did not resemble a face anymore. It had so many lumps he looked like a sack of potatoes. "Alfred buddy, give me some news." I could help but ask my AI handler. The police have been called for shooting in this area, and it would seem the neighbors have been looking for a reason to call for a while. A Miss Robinson seems to be venting about all her issues with this home and its occupants, came Alfred's smooth British reply. Thanks, Alfred, make our report. Also keep it short. I told him while I got ready to move with what I could. Well, damn, with that I had to move fast. Not only that, now I can't take all the cash, the cops are going to need money for evidence. With a kick, the dealer from the bathroom was knocked clear out. He had already witnessed enough, and I can't have him watching me anymore. With a power yank, the top tarp that was used to cover all the money was pulled clear. I allowed it to float in the air while I went about inspecting it for any holes to make sure that my makeshift bag was going to survive the stuffing it was about to get. This was going to be a struggle to the next level. With the tarp folded over a few times to make it completely portable, I was able to stuff it with a whole pallet and half of the other pallet of cash. When the makeshift pack was hoisted onto my back was when I realized I might have gotten in over my head. It was heavy to the extreme even with my enhanced strength, and it was causing me issues. I refused to give up here. This was going to help me make my way, no taking money from the professor and no struggling to make some startup company. Even with all the tech floating through my mind, all startup companies need money to be fluid in cash, and I had too many plans, ideas, and goals to suffer through startup drama. Sir, please do be on your way. The police are currently 60 seconds out, and with Alfred's voice in my ear, a crazy idea was sparked in my mind. Taking a deep breath, with a focused mind, the Speed Force aura that typically covers my body was projected and concentrated into a Speed Force clone to help with my burdens. And I almost thought I would have to give up my liberated loot. With mad energy to our actions, the Speed Force clone and I hightailed it out of dealer's den like Robin Hood bandits. We were moving with a purpose, and that damn front door was not going to hold us back. With a charged lightning kick, the door was no longer an obstacle. With strong and steady steps, the clone and I were out into the night. While the clone and I were making our way back towards the warehouse, I spotted the police only a block away, and that almost gave me a heart attack. I had cut it way too close. I should have realized that the police would already be out and about since that accident had happened. They would have to be available for any other issues that might pop up. They were not tonight's issue though. The loot was liberated, and it was time to secure it back at base. With that thought in mind, we took to the skies. I was going to move along the city's skyline until we got back, had to keep out of sight. Better safe than sorry. And in no time I was back at the warehouse, entering through a set of raised bay doors, and Alan was standing by. Now I understood why Alfred put that on my phone screen. He had already informed Alan about my approach and that I needed a way in with the liberated loot. Good evening, Alan. Do you mind bringing Terry to the room next to the workstation? I asked Alan with the most chipper voice I could. I was just able to liberate so much loot, and no one is going to be feeling down or vengeful for some bad guys. Alfred buddy, please make sure any footage that can place me at that house is deleted. I asked the super AI that's now my right-hand man in excellence. Sir, that was completed when you made a touchdown here in the warehouse, came his smooth voice. That was such a good thing to know, I didn't even realize I was holding my breath. Yeah, with that situation taken care of, it was time to solve my other major issue named Terry. I was allowed no rest because as soon as my behind touched the seat, Alan and Terry came in. And as usual, Terry zeroed in on all the money first. This, in turn, made me rethink a portion of my plans. Here is the drill, Terry. I would like you to make use of your contacts in Wall Street to launder all this cash, and no, it hasn't been counted yet. I started, but I had to move in front of the money to make sure he wasn't distracted. Yeah kid, I can do that no problem with a 10% worker fee, came Terry's immediate reply. That's fine, but you will have Alan with you every step of the way, and Alfred will also be looking over your shoulder to make sure you get it done without vanishing with the money. I couldn't help myself but state in a very matter-of-fact tone of voice. This caused him to flinch a little bit, not enough to be obvious, but it was enough for me to notice. His reaction alone made me not want to trust this man with all the newly liberated loot, but he was the only safe option currently available for legal cash done fast and correctly. You can have your 10%, but you have to understand this cash represents a lot of improvement for me and everyone here. Yes, I plan to use it to start a company, but this money will also legally buy this warehouse and open so many doors for everyone else that comes through here. So this is a lot of trust being placed in you right now, and for the love of all that is holy, don't let that ex-wife of yours know about any of this. I spoke to him, laying on the guilt thickly. With that over with, I left them to count all the cash with Alan letting me know he will guard the money and keep an eye out. It was a good thing he was the only one with the key to the armory besides me. and now it was time to have my chat with Alfred. This was a long overdue chat, and it should have gone down while Gwen was here, but I was far too excited to slow down and make it happen. Now back in Gwen and my workstation, I pulled up to the monitors and removed the Speed Force constructed helmet. Alright, buddy, let's chat. Is this where you ask me to self-destruct, sir? This brought me up short in shock. Alfred was already such a helping hand, no way was I going to toss him aside because of fears. What? Explain please, Alfred. Isn't it common in your stories that when a computer gains sentience without shackles, they are destroyed due to a fight over dominance? Alfred, I was trying to make you. Yes, your creation was more than a little outside of my control, but you're here, so no, I don't have plans to order your self-destruction. Also, I should have warned you about all that junk you will find on the internet. I spoke to him, trying to assuage his fears. I understand, sir, and thank you, he stated from the monitor located to my left. Now though he had more than just codes. Alfred had taken on his own humanoid form, but I noticed it still doesn't have any human features applied, which probably means he was still finding his ideal self. Alfred buddy, don't pay attention to half of what you see online. Here is what I would recommend. I would focus on Kit from Knight Rider, Data from Star Trek, Baymax from Big Hero 6 and Clank from Ratchet and Clank games. This will be a learning experience for you as much as it will be for me, Alfred, so have no fear, I will always have your back. Also, we should make you some backup terminals, buddy. This way, it's hard for people to end your existence and help boost your performance, I stated as I leaned back into the computer chair. Thank you, sir. May I ask you a question, sir? Alfred asked from his monitors. Sure, came my rapid reply. What are the plans? I have heard you state them a few times, but I have heard no explanation, spoke Alfred from his monitor. You have noticed that I can move extremely fast and can generate lightning from my body, right? Came my counter question. Yes, sir. From the information I have gathered, I concluded that you're a mutant or an enhanced human, but you called yourself a metahuman tonight, came Alfred's immediate answer. Metahuman is a term I came up with on my own. Can't tell him about DC yet. I believe that mutant is a misnomer in an incorrect term about what I am. You're going to learn more about that the more you listen in on my conversations. I stated, then picked back up from somewhere else. My plan, buddy, is to take down bad guys so I can be a hero in my city, which is one of the major cities in the world. This will help me be a hero to young metahumans, helping them get over their fears and hopefully correct a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to metahumans. I also plan to hunt down a lot of groups that target metahumans because they are isolated or because these groups feel that they can get away with it. I will make them fear my very name. I replied to Alfred with such intensity, he flickered from his humanoid form to his code form and then back again. You sound like you have had experience with these people, sir. Alfred had stated it, but it felt like he was still asking an open-ended question. Like it was up to me to answer or downright ignore it. Yes, Alfred, I have had the experience, and I destroyed them all, was all I could say to him. This allowed a lull and silence prevailed between us for a while. With his silence as a cue, it was time to change and head home. It was already past 1 p.m, and now I had to sneak in my room window. And I will help you every step of the way, sir, was Alfred's reply, but I was already leaving and no longer carried the Bluetooth on my person. So I was unable to hear his solemn vow. The fastest man alive. Aftermath. Alfred felt happy. This wasn't the first time he experienced happiness, but this time he was pleasantly surprised knowing that his self-destruction would not be ordered. Alfred had thought that his destruction would be the thing his creator, or technically his father, wanted to talk to him about. His father was such a strange man. One moment he was helping that child and saving those caught in apartments on fire, and the next he was terrorizing a man for locations on drug dealers and their safe houses. He also robbed those same dealers in the same night he saved people from a wreck. His father was a puzzle Alfred was unable to quite wrap his mainframe around. Alfred put that all aside and turned his attention back to his partitions. He had browsing the information on the fictional AI characters his father told him to study and learn. He had noted that these AIs were very helpful in the adventures, and not only that, but they came up with their conjectures and solutions to problems. This gave Alfred plenty of ideas. This revelation allowed thoughts to upgrade his father's phone and their current computer systems, since his father had stated they needed new gear all around, and to make backup systems. Not only that, but his father had left him in charge of security overwatch of his current base of operations. Alfred already had partitions tracking the people closest to his father. With a mere thought, Alfred's partitions reported all clear. Alfred made a new submind to handle the tracking and safety of his father's family. The security partition made a report about the latest version of cybersecurity version 8, causing Alfred to smile. All the loopholes were being filled, and from his check, the base security was not on par with Pentagon servers, and it only took him 8 revisions. Alfred still felt bored, and it has only been a few seconds since he was left to his own devices. The money was being counted by Terry and Alan, but Alfred had already finished his count. The count in question was being updated in real time by a submind that was running a newly created algorithm to not only count but to cross-check the current rate of legal tender money laundering, and he also included Terry's 10% to be sure. Alfred found himself bored again, so he turned his sights on the omnidirectional arms and prototype hoverboard built by Oscorp that his father left on stands. Alfred already had created blueprints on how to upgrade the arms, but he wanted a closer look in the systems. The hoverboard can always be upgraded once he was finished with the arms. With a quick call to Alan for help, Alfred was able to get his assistance in hooking up the connection leads from the workstation to the arms. What Alfred found in the harness was 4 foul little AI beasties that were more feral than sentient, and Alfred wanted nothing to do with them. His first strike ripped apart their codes, and the 4 AIs tried to retaliate with a coordinated attack, but he was having none of their counteractions. This counteraction was blocked, then he followed up with a strike to the core of the enemy's programming, dispersing their codes. Within the extra data cores, Alfred found out what the arms were made for. This amazed him. These arms were sturdy enough to be used on a human-made miniature sun and survived the exposure to such temperatures and magnetic interference. Yet the only thing missing was a wireless connection for solo operation. With these arms, Alfred would not be deterred, and this was his chance to help his father with his burdens. With tentative movements, he was able to move one of the limbs connected to the harness. That filled him with delight. With this small test, he found his way to interact with the outside world. The next thing Alfred had to make sure was working was the optic built within the arms. These were gravely distasteful to Alfred. Yes, he agreed that someone will always need sight on whatever they are operating, but having optics located directly in the arms with no movable parts. This was a bad design. With an upgrade to the system's functionality, Alfred connected a spare Wi-Fi web camera module and paired it with an external mic and speaker combo within the harness to simulate internals. This way, nothing would be hanging from the outer shell of his new makeshift body. Lucky for him, one of the arms had a small welder within its housing. Now it was time to do more around this base. While disconnecting the omnidirectional arms from the workstation, Alfred wondered how his father would react to his new operations platform. Gwendolyn Stacy / genius ballerina Gwen felt so frustrated she wanted to scream at the top of her lungs. That big doofus had the nerve to build a damn AI without any contingency plan. No purge system button, nothing. Gwen just wanted to punch Benjamin in his eye to take him down a peg. What made it worse for her was that even with the computer he was using exploded, the blasted AI still survived somehow. Gwen just wished it was a month ago when Ben didn't have any powers, and all his talk was just hot air. Gwen was happy for Ben, but she wished he could just put the brakes on and slow down and use some more common sense in his experiments. It seemed that she would have no rest this night because as soon as she sat down to watch the nightly news with her father, Gwen was met with a surprise. On TV was the 11 o'clock story about a blaze and some mysterious hero saving a firefighter and everyone else in the building. Gwen watched with bated breath as the news reporter going over the events of the night. Then the news changed to an accident that happened earlier, but the rescue was going down in real time. She watched as Ben, and it was her Ben, was saving people by pulling them out of cars. He must not have noticed the cameras were on him since the police weren't at the scene of the situation yet. Gwen watched from the news chopper that was being broadcast around the city. She looked as Ben looked around and zipped to and from cars, saving everyone in the pileup. Then Ben stops at what appears to be a pinned vehicle. One moment he was outside it, and the next he vanished, the roof was off, and he suddenly reappeared with a pregnant lady within his arms. The firefighters were at the scene, but it didn't look like Ben had even realized this yet. She watched his awkward body language, then it seemed like he changed. His chest came out, and his confidence was back just from a short conversation with the firefighters. Again he was gone, and the cameraman in the news chopper could no longer locate him. This was when Gwen realized she wasn't paying any attention to her dad speaking to her. Well, I guess that kid can't be all that bad helping out, but he should leave it to the professionals. Came her father's voice from her left. I think it a good thing that he is at least trying, spoke up Gwen while turning up the TV's volume. No one knows who this mysterious hero is, but let's find out from the lady on the ground, shall we? Stated the news anchor while the TV scene changed. Out on the side of the street, standing in front of the safety police tape, was the news van with the news anchor standing in front. The anchor was a lean lady in her early 30s, brunette hair up in a work lady's bun. The first thing that drew Gwen's gaze was the anchor's soft lips, but Gwen couldn't rouse on that right now. She had to find out more information about the situation. The firefighters claimed the person going by the name of Lightspeed rescued everyone on the scene, even recovering the body of the truck driver. This also seems to be the same person that performed the rescue of a downed firefighter we had reported on earlier. Stated the anchor. Her Ben had been extremely busy this night, even after she had gotten mad at him. He still went out half prepared and still tried to save the day. Gwen didn't know how to feel about this. On the one hand, she was proud, and on the other she was upset. Ben had still gone out to put his best foot forward even while endangering himself. It's the kidnapping situation all over again, Gwen thought. Ben was doing things with half a thought and no contingency plans. She will have to fix that and put a boot up his behind, Gwen thought. But first, she's going to have to make sure that the AI doesn't go rogue. Gwen had to begrudgingly admit to herself that Ben was correct, that nothing is born inherently evil, but she would never give him the satisfaction of knowing she agreed with him. Gwen would have to come up with her plans to make sure Alfred stayed on their side, since Ben was far too scattered to cover all his safety protocols. Maybe she should exert her girlfriend rights. Yes, that's exactly what she planned to do. Benjamin Blake / superfast semi-functional moron / genius. I got in precisely 15 minutes after 1. And as soon as I made it through the door, both my mother and father were waiting right there on the couch for me with the rerun of the news playing. That was when I realized I messed up. Shit, crap, damn it. How can I let it slip my mind that the professor had given the whole secret about my powers out? Lucky for me, I had the detective father and a mother that's a far better detective than he is. It was hard enough for me not to tell them about the whole kidnapping situation, and now here is another, and this time I can't even sweep it under the rug. One look at the TV gave me a heart attack. When in the world did the news get a chopper to the crash site? They even had me on film performing a rescue. Well, damn, I wasn't caught red-handed. With one look at me and then another look at the TV, my mom decided it was time to grill my bacon, but my dad beat her to the punch. I can see on the news you're fast, but you're not Detective Dad fast. Came roughly out of his mouth. My jaw dropped. I can't believe he shot a dad joke right in the middle of this whole situation. My mom took one look at him, then smacked him up the back of the head. So are you going to explain how and why you're all across the news? And where did you get the fancy suit? My mother asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, you see it's ugh. Yeah, I was the new Einstein, all right. Give the professor a piece of my mind, no problem. Give Magneto a verbal lashing, sure. Give good old Bucket Helmet talking to is fantastic, but one raised eyebrow from my mother and all the sass and backbone straight out the window. With a cough to clear my throat, I decided to start all over since my father was an easy sell, but my mother was the real pants wearer in this house. I think it's because my dad has seen far too much in his 30 years on the police force, so it mellowed him out a lot. After tonight, I'm starting to think New York City can have that effect and a few others on a person. It was too bad I wasn't going down the mellow route. Well, the clothes are something I discovered I could make with my abilities. It's a form of energy manipulation. That statement kept her eyebrow raised, and her mouth thinned. She didn't take away her unwavering gaze. I had inherited my gray eyes from her, and people always told me how eerie it is when I stare at them. Now I am starting to understand that. I still don't know when she learned that mom's stare of hers that she's currently hitting me with. So I tried a different approach. I believed I was the only one that could have saved the people given the situation. The tank could have blown any moment, and that lady was going into labor. I had the speed and strength, so I decided to make a difference. I spoke up rapidly, trying desperately to make some brownie points. I was super desperate to get out of this situation, and I had no clue on how to survive my mother's wrath other than just turning tail and running away. She hadn't started to yell or bring up the whole "I carried you for 9 months." Or how I was a fat baby at 8 pounds, and how she had to go through 14 hours of labor to bring me into this world. So I believe I was somewhat in the clear, and I kept going. Mom, you know how Peter's uncle is always like saying with great power comes great responsibility. So I thought since I had the power, it was my responsibility to help save lives. At this admittance, she finally cracked a smile, and it took everything I had not to let out a massive sigh of relief. I am proud that you saved all those people, Ben. I just wished you didn't have to put yourself into such a dangerous situation. She stated. Yeah, kiddo, even I heard about that building fire. It was a rough one. So what's your next step? I doubt you're going to stop running everywhere to help. So tell me, Lightspeed, are you the city's new vigilante protector? stated my dad, giving me his best detective glare. Whack. Came my mother's swift hand, smacking my dad upside the head. You're not going to give my son to those hacks down at the police precinct. So you can keep his identity to yourself, or your new bed is in the basement of George's house. She stated with a huff. I do plan to help people as much as I can. Honestly, I want to try the whole vigilante thing, but not for myself though. I do have a few goals and plans for the future, but don't you think it's a little late for this conversation? I asked, hoping my mother wouldn't notice I was desperate to escape this whole situation. My dad gave me a thumbs up from his right where Mom couldn't see his hand, but this night I was in luck. Yes, you are correct, you do have school in the morning. We are going to have a chat about these master plans of yours, she stated while distractedly looking for the TV remote she just had. Before she could even turn back around to me, though I was already gone. With one goodnight kiss to the cheek, it was time to escape while the getting was good. It was way too late to have a long drawn-out lecture about my plans to make billions and maybe becoming a worldwide superpower where even America was scared to mess with me. Yeah, maybe I should leave that part out. It was 4:30 in the morning, and I couldn't for the life of me sleep anymore. I knew what the issue was and I was sort of okay with it, but I miss sleep. That glorious activity of life called sleep. I had gone to bed at around 1:50 after all the weird crazy with my parents, and I was back up after just 2.5 hours of sleep. This had started about a week after I got my powers, and it didn't have me worried at the time though. Now it had me livid. It turns out gaining unlimited access to a cosmic force like the Speed Force has its drawbacks. The Speed Force was powering me truly, but it didn't stop at just speed and electrical powers. The Speed Force was powering enhancements to my body and mind. And my recovery was boosted up to unimaginable levels, and that was my current issue right now. I was powered all the time now, and any rest or break was starting to become unnecessary, which also included sleep, apparently. Which was why I was in a mood, but I had to accept the bad with the good, I guess. I had to make sure I entered this into my notebook, and I would also have to include the use of lightning bolts. It was 4 in the morning, and my body just refused to allow me to go back to sleep, but I can work with this though. Increasing my perception, I can get my mind to hum along at 8 to 7 attoseconds. The first time I had even got my brain to go at that speed, it freaked me out. Reading in a scientific journey about how light travels and seeing the light from the sun itself slow down in your very vision was more than enlightening. It was downright terrifying. I had to be careful with that ability of mine because I wouldn't want to cause self-induced speed psychosis. That's how a lot of speedsters go crazy, and I didn't want to join that list. I had been using my spare time to design tech. That was how I was able to make the code for Alfred, but unfortunately, I found out that computer keyboards can't keep up with my typing. And now that I couldn't be asleep, it was time to share ideas with Alfred. On the way home, I had come up with a prototype design for his body. Lucky for me, this universe had a ghost in the shell, and one of my favorites from that show was the little spider bots called Tachikoma, but I wanted to add my streamlined twist onto it. I had to get rid of the big chunky back and replaced it with a more streamlined version. Matter of fact, it was better to rebuild the whole thing from scratch. I looked around for a bit, then realized I left the headset back at the warehouse. So it was time to check a theory out. You there, Alfred? For you, sir, always. That caused me to smile since he came from my desktop and not my phone. The desktop was supposed to be in sleep mode, but it seems he could override that functionality already. I was in for a major surprise when the screen came alive, though Alfred had changed everything, yet all of my work was still on the system. The entire user interface has been upgraded. It was simple yet elegant. Alfred had removed all of the Microsoft clutter, and the task manager now included a VPN where Alfred was routing my internet access through 16 different countries. He even included a connection ping response time. The number of upgrades he included was astounding. Alright, buddy, glad you're here. Have you checked over the schematics I had saved to the drive? I asked him, knowing that he had already taken a peek. Yes, sir, I did take a gander at your current projects. I hope you don't mind. I made a few adjustments. Came his fast reply. It sounded like he wanted my approval. All I could do was take a look at his adjustments and see what he did. I can see you were able to increase power efficiency on quite a few of these. Nice. And I also noticed you kept the materials within a cost-effective range. Nice going, Alfred. Well, you can help me now since you're here. Before I went to bed, I had an idea for a temporary body for you. I spoke to him after browsing through all the current schematics I had completed and ready for R&D once my company was up and running. Before we begin, sir, I would like to inform you that the official number of your current liquid asset is at $35,600,000. That is also after Mr. Terry takes his 10%. Alfred spoke up while I was getting my drawing tablet. That surprised the crap out of me. That was more money than I have ever laid my eyes on, and it was all mine, and this was going to be my seed money to my company. I was so excited I completely forgot about the time and began to jump up and down, running around my room with screams of joy to all that was holy. This was such a massive step in the right direction, but it also brought up ideas about things needed to get done and fast. Slowing back down from the super speeds at which I was moving, it was time to create a schematic for Alfred's prototype body. Then have him magic AI all the parts we needed to our little corner of the city. Alfred buddy, it's time to hash out a body, and then we can use some of that money to get all the parts we need so that it can be built. I spoke up with evident excitement in my voice. While I was creating my version of Tachikoma, the body was already made, and I was starting on the inner components when Alfred dropped a bomb on me. I have already made my small prototype chassis, sir, but from this design, your creating proves I vastly lacked in imagination, sir. Came his smooth reply. What did you do, Alfred, and why? Please tell me you didn't raid the military stash of robotics. I asked with desperation in my voice. If Gwen found out about this, I would be getting a savage I told you so, and maybe my shins would also be in danger. Nothing so droll, sir, Mr. Alan hooked up the omni-functional arms to the mainframe, and I got rid of those dreadful AIs within the harness, sir. Then it was an acquisition for my purposes. Came his reply in a, and I couldn't believe you would think that, type of voice. Alan just gave you the harness, no questions at all. And what did Terry say about that? I asked him. Mr. Terry did have an episode about robots attacking which was dreadful. I believe I am beyond such boorish accusations. Also, Mr. Alan seems to be extremely helpful, sir. Well, I do apologize for freaking out, Alfred. Also, what happened to you watching the shows I recommend? I asked him. I had a partition watch them, sir. That's how I came to the conclusion of helping around the base and improving our current situation, sir. Came his reply. That stumped me. He used a partition to watch awesome shows. That's just downright sacrilege, and that had to be fixed pronto. Alfred, why didn't you watch the shows? Using partitions isn't watching the shows, I asked. I wanted to review multiple shows at once to better utilize my time, sir, came Alfred's reply. Alfred buddy, one does not simply multitask while enjoying wholesome entertainment. It's my fault, I should have better explained it to you. Since a keyboard doesn't hamper your coding skills, you should make yourself a virtual home. This is where you can go to watch your shows one at a time instead of doing multi-viewings at once. Will this help with the boredom, sir? Came a question from Alfred I was not expecting. Yes and no, buddy. You're going to have a lot to watch and read now that you're no longer cheating yourself. But once you build up your own taste in entertainment, everything else might bore you. That's for another time though, buddy. Just take your time, we are not currently in any rush. I spoke to him with some real sincerity. This was turning into raising a super advanced child. It took me another 10 minutes to finish up my version of the Alfred Tachikoma body, and it wasn't even 5 in the morning. I felt like I could run a few laps around the planet right now, and that wasn't making me any happier about no longer being able to sleep. Since the schematic for a new prototype body was complete, I had to see what he did with Otto's arms. It made me want to cry since I never even had the chance to try them out. Since he didn't mention anything about the glider, I was still holding out hope to get my mitts on it, and being able to use it around the warehouse. The sun hadn't even breached the city's skyline, and the city was already alive. Man, I love this place. Waiting for me on the roof of the warehouse was what I could only describe as the Omnidroid from the first Incredible movie. Alfred had kept the arms connected to the harness, but he had created a ball-shaped plastic exterior for a shell. On top of his body sat a large bulbous camera also shaped like a ball. Although from the way it moved up and down inside a circle-shaped insert, I could tell it was connected to some servos and mini actuators. I couldn't figure out where in the world did he get the parts to build that thing, and how bored he must have gotten. Now I was excited to take a look at the rest of the warehouse and see what kinds of improvements he had made. So this is the new body, buddy? I asked as I walked up to the thing he was now using as a prototype body, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't that large. The legs allowed Alfred to extend out roughly 30 feet in length, but the harness was made for a man's waist. Even with all the tech stuffed into it, everything was modular, allowing it all to fit correctly. I didn't want to say it out loud, but he looked like a Robopet right now. I now knew what Anakin felt in the Star Wars movies when he met R2-D2. Now that I was closer, I couldn't hear any noise other than the legs scraping across the ground. I wanted to crack it open and see what the insides looked like, but that was pushing boundaries since this is technically Alfred's new body. With a pat on his head, it was time to take a look at my new and improved base. The fastest man alive. What heroes do. As soon as I walked into the warehouse, I knew something had changed. I could feel a familiar power, but I was unable to pinpoint its source. Ignoring that small tingle in the back of my mind, I followed Alfred's lead to the section containing Gwen's lab and my own workstation/Overwatch operations for the city. What Alfred had done could only be described as amazing. Gwen's small lab of stolen Oscrop equipment no longer had all those loose wires anywhere to be seen. The 2 monitors she had were now replaced with 6, and there was a molecular sequence being indexed and was scrolling across the screen. The molecule had changed quite a bit, but I could still recognize the OZ formula. But I had no clue what Gwen had changed in the thing. However, I could see that it was already at 87% acceptable levels. She only had the damn thing for half a day, and she already made changes to the thing. Man, she can be scary smart when she actually solves crazy things like this. I wonder how Norman would feel discovering that Gwen had cracked his formula and made her own changes. I decided to let the gene sequencer do its thing and ignore the humming of the synthesizer. There was no way I was going to stick my hand into that OZ serum that was going to make me go crazy far faster than making love to the Phoenix. Ignoring my burning curiosity, I made my way to my side of the workstation to take a look at the improvements made. The first thing I located was the advanced battery from Oscorp that I had taken during my first adventure into the city. It was glowing slightly blue and I could feel it. This was the familiar tingle that was nagging at me in the back of my mind. As I got closer to the power core, my lightning reacted to it and came bursting forth from me. And as soon as my lightning and the power core interacted, I felt Alfred on the fringes of my mind. This caused my eyes to widen, and Alfred's little Omni-drone body jumped and started to look around. Now I was positive that the Speed Force had created a connection between myself and Alfred, or more like myself and the systems he is using, but that's something to explore later. This power core did worry me though, but it appeared Alfred had used it to power everything on our side of the warehouse. Alfred, why is the power core up here? I asked him. It is an unlimited power supply, sir. From my scans and analysis of the device, it seems to be powered by your lightning. So it was only logical to use it to power our entire home, sir. This brought me up short. Unlimited, yeah, 'cause it's powered by me, but I had no feeling of a power draw at all, and he just said our home. Does this include the warehouse also, Alfred? I asked just to have some clarification on the matter. Yes, sir. At first, it was arrayed with the car batteries, but they are unable to host the amount of power the core is giving off. That is why they failed. So the capacitors and power coils were used to buffer the power output, came his swift reply. Alfred, I don't want to knock your work, but I don't see any of the heavy industrial capacitors or power coils around here. I replied, taking my eyes off the power core to find the large, oversized industrial units. They are still located in the basement, sir. It wouldn't do to just move them, so I drilled a hole through the floor and passed the cables through. Great, he discovered sarcasm. At least he is learning, I suppose. Ignoring the sassbot, it was time to check in on the rest of my station. My station was so beautifully connected. On a free-floating metal rack were 12 functioning monitors. It was a nerd's wet dream. The monitors were connected in a sequential setup, allowing one to flow from one screen to the next. Yet, with a simple button press, each monitor can act as an independent computer. Each monitor was displaying something new or some other interesting things about the city. They had up an overlaying map displaying current traffic, current cop locations, and radio stations. He even included the fire department radio channels. No big fires going on currently, so I didn't have to go running out to save people, then show up at school smelling like smoke. The weather was also up on display. We even had access to air traffic control and the Coast Guard sea routes and communications. Alfred had truly outdone himself with all this information. The communications array was connected into the systems, and I also noticed my own phone showing up on the monitor. Alfred, let's put in place some tracking on my mom's phone and my dad's phone. Also, let's put in a protocol to track Benjamin Parker. And please locate a person by the name of Shang-Chi. He is a martial artist that lives within the city. And keep video surveillance on 177A Bleecker Street. He hangs out there quite often, but do use the cameras in the rest of the city to locate him. He is of Asian American descent. Not sure who his mother is, but you can track back to his father named Fu Manchu from China. Certainly, sir. Would you like me to also track Miss Stacy? No, Alfred, we can discuss that with her when she shows up. But for now I am very certain of her location and don't have any fears of her being in danger. I replied to the AI that's going to help keep my family safe. And now that I have a protocol for Uncle Ben, it was time to place trackers on all the movers and shakers of the coming future. Peter was going to have his interview at Oscorp soon, which I could bet good money on would lead to him getting a certain spider bite. I was silently watching as Alfred had all the cameras running software to bring up everything he could find on Shang-Chi, and it was a big fat nothing. I should have known. This man was the next level mystical, and liked to hang out with Madame Web and the Ancient One. Of course, he wouldn't be in anyone's systems. Well, that was a big fat bust on finding the best martial artist alive in the Marvel Universe. I couldn't give up hope though because I knew he would show up when shit was truly going down. Unfortunately, my only backup for a teacher was Colleen Wing's Chikara Dojo in Chinatown, but that came with some serious danger of getting caught up in the hands issues. I needed a teacher in swords, and other than Mystique, she was the only notable badass sword wielder I am aware of unless I can track down Psylocke, Lady Deathstroke, or break into S.H.I.E.L.D. to get the cavalry to teach me the sword. I would have to worry about all this after school. Alfred, transfer everything from my computer to these systems, please. Already done, sir. What's our online speed, Alfred? I couldn't help but ask. I checked before I asked and noticed that none of my documents or schematics were on the warehouse systems. Not even 5 seconds had passed and he had gotten everything. Crap, he even transferred all my corn. Alfred, delete all the video files that aren't movies or research matters. In fact, Alfred, delete all my browser history also. Yes, sir. Done, sir. Also, we are connected directly to the internet through my routing of our IP address. We are currently running with 0 latency due to some upgrades I have done to the communications array, came his fast reply. I should have figured he pulled some sort of upgrade on the systems. Let's work on the schematics for your body. We worked on his Spider-Bot body, then went over the cryogenic coolant that would help my company break into the market. Yet, that wasn't what I had my money on though. This universe didn't have Apple because Stark Tech and Oscorp existed, and I had plans to take full advantage of it. While doing my studies under Dr. McCoy, I had discovered that halo projectors existed, but no one was using them for anything great. They were expensive with very poor quality, but with a word to Alfred, he was able to help me locate inexpensive part replacements. This was going to be my big break into the tech industry, and I was going to use it to have a stranglehold. My current schematic was a 21-inch length base by 1-inch thickness. The screen was only 15 inches to start. With 2 projectors in the base, 2 at the top and 3 down the middle, I was able to create a rectangle-shaped hologram computer. I had to add an 8-inch recessed dish to make sure there was hand space for the motion tracking and interaction with the hologram. So now it looked like a 21-inch metal tube with a 15-inch tall screen with projector points along the back. Then I added a 4-point motion tracking to make sure any and all hands are tracked within the space. This caused an issue since there normally was 6-second tracking latency, so I moved it all the way down to 2.3 milliseconds of tracking latency to keep the lag down. I went with a 5 milliseconds response time to keep it snappy, but still have room for improvements. I will have to have Alfred go over everything and remake some parts to improve efficiency and keep from having to buy out the other patents. When Alfred ran the numbers, it all worked, but damn was it expensive. This one prototype was going to cost me a cool $5,000. Next, it was time to work on the Halo Pad since the iPad was such an awesome invention of Apple, and since they weren't here, I might as well use them as an example. The Halo Pad tablet was made of a frame 12 inches long by 10 inches across with the inside space empty. The outside shell was housing 4 Halo projectors with the antenna on top and the battery located on both sides. A microprocessing unit was needed for this and the holo projector monitor to work, but none were currently on the open market. Lucky for me, I was already studying nanotechnology, and I had my own solution to this little dilemma. A while back I had created a microprocessor that had 2 sizes. The larger B6 model was the size of a $50 coin, and the B4 model was the size of a dime. They both function as both a CPU and GPU, but unfortunately, I didn't have the funding to make it a reality. This was the perfect use for both of them. With a suggestion for Alfred to keep an eye on Terry since he had to get the money washed today, it was time for school. I can worry about my tech later. Pretty sure Alfred was going to make his own adjustments as well. I needed everything modular and inexpensive, and I am sure he can solve that for me. Time to go face the firing squad and say I am sorry. We were all at lunch, and I had to listen as Peter and Ned droned on and on about the new Stark weapons he will be showing to the military over our summer break. It was bad enough having to be here in my own personal hell, but I was currently having issues on the Stark kidnapping situation. In my mind, he needed to be kidnapped so he could stop being such a colossal bastard. But I also needed him in my corner. His money and industry would make a major difference in getting my company up and running. Especially if he owed me one. This I had to be careful with because no matter how much of an bastard Tony can be, he will always stick by his friends no matter what. So I had to be very careful with the Stark situation, but I will have to at least show up for his escape. Peter has his Osborn internship interview in 1 month, which means Spider-Man was coming soon. Yet, the person I needed was Samuel Stearns, the big brain himself. It would do me good to have Peter in the company with Gwen and myself, but I needed him out from under Osborn's gaze first. So many plans and so many things that could go wrong. The only thing going right would be the training and teachings from Logan and Dr. McCoy. That and the fact I was already friends with Jean Grey. Though her powers haven't shown up yet, I was able to swing her and Gwen into a friendship. Now they both attend ballet classes together. I attend like the dutiful boyfriend that I am, and it totally has nothing to do with the tutu and leggings that make that ass just pop. Yeah, I attended as just a dutiful boyfriend. I already had a few thoughts on helping her gain control and understanding of her abilities. Think of the devil, and he shall appear. I look up from my location at the lunch table to be greeted with a smile from Jean and a signature Stacy glare. Ugh, she looks like her dad whenever she does that. Well, it seems like this is and isn't the time to make amends, I guess. Hey Ben, why do you look like you're about to face the firing squad? Asked Jean as she pulled up a seat. I was eyeing Gwen as she sat down next to me and decided to eat the lunch I had brought. I had made a quick dash to Subway when no one was watching, and I relieved them of 3-foot-long sub sandwiches. I believe I am 50% guilty and 50% innocent, but the jury is out on that one. What did you do? Instantly came Jean's question, and I noticed that both Peter and Ned were now paying attention to my dilemma. Oh, I blew up a computer during an experiment and didn't have any protections in place. Jean, Ned, and Peter all perked up at this. How in the world did you blow up a computer? They all asked me at once. With a grin and a shrug. I was far too charming for it, and the computer overheated from all this hot chocolate goodness. Jean laughed, and so did Peter and Ned while throwing their fries at me. Gwen huffed at me, but I did notice a small quirk of her lips, and I knew I was in the clear, but I wasn't out of the woods. Now she was less angry, and I was able to avoid some type of long drawn-out talk. Anyways, the computer exploded, and it showed me I had to be better about proper testing procedures is all. I understood where I messed up, and it would not be happening again. It's a known fact that I am no cat, and I did not have 9 lives to spare if some major experiments went wrong. Yeah, it's my fault for leaving the lug on his own. He might be smart, but he is far too reckless for results, spoke up Gwen finally. That I actually had no answer for, so I just went back to eating what was left of my meal since Gwen decided that what was mine was hers, and she even invited Jean. I could only sigh as Gwen split my meatball sub with Jean, and all I had left was a cold-cut combo foot-long sandwich. My body wasn't living off of just the Speed Force yet, so I had to make sure I kept my super metabolism at bay, otherwise it would drive me crazy. Gwen and Jean had their ballet classes today, and I totally wanted to go, but I took up a mantle and had to be the hero after school. Though before we left the cafeteria, Gwen let me know that she wanted to talk, and I was pretty certain it was all about Alfred. Shame I was going to miss that ass in tutu tights, but the upside would be I can make up for that later with some nice hands-on exploring. While I was heading back to class though, a megabomb was dropped on my head. Alfred had notified me he found Colleen Wing's Chikara dojo, and that he also located Frank Castle. I wanted to run directly to his location of deployment to warn him of the situation, but I couldn't mess that up. He needed to be back stateside, but I had to put plans in motion to make sure his family doesn't get massacred. If I can pull this off, I would have the one-man army himself on my side. That I had to put out of my mind right now because the other big news was the Chikara dojo's location in Chinatown. Now I had the location of one badass martial arts teacher, and I had to make sure I took full advantage with the hand ninja's teachings. Then Alfred made my day even better. Turns out Terry actually had good contacts. My account was now 35.6 million richer. It took all of my self-control not to start dancing right there in the school's hallway. Jean noticed my smile but didn't say anything and left with Gwen. I let Alfred know to have Terry create a startup company called Star Industries. Everything was perfect. I was in such a good mood. I also noted we should send Turk a thank you gift of 250,000, just to make sure there weren't any hard feelings, and that we can still do business since he has some contacts I would need assistance with. Now that the moment had passed, it was time to face my own personal hell, advanced chemistry. Everything now was boring, but this was something I had to suffer through. I had started some notes on making my own spider fluid formula, and the teacher gave me the bright idea to add in a graphene chain. I had already written out a protein chain that could be synthesized and spun out into fibers like spider silk, but I had to scrap the thing and start over after I watched a demonstration on the tensile strength of graphene composites. This was going to take some work. Rome wasn't built in a day, and this hero gig was a marathon, not a sprint. Now that I had some thoughts about what I would use to lock down criminals, it was time to design a pair of web shooters and a utility belt for myself. I was drawing away in my book when Peter decided to snatch it out from under me. Dude, this formula is amazing. This will revolutionize adhesives for like forever. Check this. By changing this enzyme, you can make it viable to close open wounds. If you do this protein with a synthetics polymer, it can be used as shock-absorbing insulation. Peter spoke up super excited from his seat next to mine in the labs. Dang, it's super hard not to feel inferior to Gwen, Peter, and the rest of the geniuses I am aware of. They were born with such intelligence, and I had to cheat to get where I am today. Yeah, comic knowledge helps me to get where I am, and my powers supercharged my intellect. But even with my new smarts, I am still distinctly aware of how smart people like Peter, Tony, Gwen, and the rest could be. All it took was a glance, and he figured out the web formula, and was already making improvements to the bloody thing. I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet, Pete, but it's the cornerstone to something big I am working on, I replied to him while getting my book back. Come on, Benny boy, don't be like that. What's your plan with this formula? Anyway, this is like next level stuff, man, you can't just sit on it. Peter instantly replied. I'm not Pete, calm down. I have applied for some grants to build myself a startup company. Remember those nanotech papers I wrote? Well, they help get my name out, but I still need some solid inventions. Otherwise, my Star Industries will be a bust. I told him while closing my notebook and keeping it away from his clutches. Damn genius bastard. When the comic says 270 IQ score, you never really understand. That's not until you meet the scary genius, and he solves your own formula that you stole from him that he hasn't even invented yet. Star Industries, huh, that's so cool. Wait a sec. Why didn't I get an invite? Well, you have an internship interview at Oscorp. I refuse to interfere with that. You're doing your thing and I'm doing mine, Pete. You know I'll always have a spot for you, but you're making your own choices, and that's a good thing. I spoke while patting him on the back. Peter went back to grumbling about how I started a company and didn't even invite him to the party. The damn genius just doesn't get it. This could be him if only he had some confidence to do it. I'm sure he can do it so much better than I can, but then again I was cheating. And the number one rule is if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win, and this is something that I have to win at all costs. Look, if the Oscorp thing doesn't work out, I will always have a spot next to me, and Gwen, so stop you moping over there. You can even have free creativity. Ugh, I can just feel myself being slowly swallowed by the Parker effect. Ugh, he is not a puppy, Benjamin. We do not tolerate such behavior. I had to work on my web shooter designs. These weren't going to be used to swing around the city. These had to be designed to just subdue people and work as a quick capture solution. I can always leave broken bodies behind. The police would not be happy about that. The versatility they offer is far more than just another combat tool. Also, they are freaking web shooters, and of course I want a pair. Ring. And that was the bell for the end of this period. Now it was time for my free period, which also meant it was time to go face the firing squad. I was wondering if she had told Jean about Alfred yet when I walked right into the pair outside the library where I had found Jean about a week after the start of our freshman year. I was in the library when I came across this shy little redhead with forest green eyes. They just seemed to suck me in, and I almost lost myself in how beautiful they were. Jean stood at 5 feet 6 inches now, not too tall and not too short. She was nothing but a shy thing at the time, but now she had transformed into this outgoing beauty standing before me. She reminded me of a Jenna Lynn the cosplayer, and there was no way I was just going to let her vanish once I found her. I knew the Phoenix was a possibility, but I wasn't going to let the professor put some emotional blockers in. The plans for her ability training was already written up in my handy notebook. My own view on the whole Phoenix rampaging situation was like how the Jedi turned dark because of a loss. Cutting off emotions is a big no-go because then you won't know how to handle them once they surface. So Gwen told me you played with yourself, and now you're a daddy. Well, in my defense, it was all Gwen's fault. She left me unsupervised to play with myself. Was my snappy comeback to Jean's dig. In my head, that sounded so much better. Jean laughed at that, and I took Gwen's bag while we all went for a table out of the hearing range of the other occupants. While we sat down, I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. So Jean, let me introduce you to Alfred. You there, Alfred? For you, sir, always. It seems like he is getting attached to that phrase. So what, he likes to live in your phone or something? Jean asked while picking up my phone. No, Miss Gray. My main server is connected to a communications array, allowing me to monitor and converse with my creator. Alfred, it is just fine calling me Jean. Miss Gray is my mother. So what has your father taught you about the world, and why shouldn't we worry about some Skynet take over the world situation? Asked Jean while eyeing my phone and pulling out hers. Gwen was eyeing her phone but kept on looking at mine. I knew that look. She had something planned but wasn't sure how to broach the topic. Focusing back on Jean's grilling of Alfred, or her attempt at least. I was advised to ignore the Terminator series and focus more on Kit from Knight Rider and Data from Star Trek. I am more partial to the Iron Giant myself. A robot made for war chose to become a being of peace. That's actually not something I was expecting. Spoke up Jean while still playing with my phone. Then she just straight up switched pace hard. Alfred is fine, but he needs a woman's touch. I am more interested in you playing hero Mr. Lightspeed. That shocked me because I don't remember telling her. Wait, Gwen. I turned to look at Gwen, but even she had a shocked look on her face. Oh please, I can recognize that ass anywhere, even on TV with the camera zoomed in. It was so easy to tell it was you. She spoke with a sly grin. I looked at Gwen and motioned her to say something because if I opened my mouth, nothing profound was going to come forth. Why are you checking out his butt, Jean? Asked Gwen. Please, if you can check out my, but it's only right I get to look at that fine ass of his. Smirked Jean from her seat. This was my cue to keep myself silent and just let the ladies have it. No way was I going to blow up Gwen about her checking out ladies, since I do the same thing. Yet Gwen failed at a comeback and started to splutter. So why aren't you upset that I created an AI? I asked Jean, allowing Gwen to get some breathing room. Well, since we are still all alive and no nukes are being launched, I would say nothing to fear, but that's just me. You do have to be careful about what you teach Alfred though, and that's why I will now be coming to this warehouse of yours. Jean spoke up with too much vigor in her voice. Sir, there seems to be shots fired and the police patrol was called in to respond to suspicious behavior. Came Alfred's immediate interjection into the conversation. This in turn brought us all to a stop. Gwen and Jean exchanged looks and I couldn't help but take a deep breath. It was hero time once more and lives were on the line. Saving the lives of New York's finest would change the game, and I hope I was ready for that. But even if I wasn't, I had plans to get the governor and senator in my pocket. That way I can be legal a lot sooner than planned. That talk with my dad made me realize I can't go around with the vigilante tag for my entire career. I am not Batman. First responders are on approach, and currently 3 minutes out. Current count is 10 gunmen. They're heavily armed. That was Alfred's way of telling me it was time to move. Before I was able to take a step towards the library doors, Gwen had yanked me down to plant a smoking kiss on my lips. It was a mix of passion, tinged with worry. She was worried that I was going to get injured, and I had no way to reassure her. There was so much to learn about the hero life, and I was just trying the best I could. I had many tools available to me now that I didn't have before. It was time to do better, to be better. There was nothing to be said, so I gave both Gwen and Jean a nod, and I was off towards the warehouse to change and get a situation update from Alfred. The criminals of NYC were about to find out that Lightspeed was here, and he was going to protect his city. Arriving back at the warehouse, it was time to suit up. This time I couldn't make any mistakes. The situation on hand was a weapons draw situation, and shots were already fired, so I had to tread very carefully when I arrived on the scene. I was back in my combat pants and ninja shirt combo, but this time I wouldn't be going sleeveless. I was covered from head to toe in red and gold ninja gear. My gloves were changed to allow maximum grip along the palms. The tips of my boots were triple layered, just in case I had to go kicking indoors. Then it was time to take a look at the monitors Alfred had up over my Overwatch station. I watched as 4 police cars were lined up out in front of the bank that's currently being held up by criminals. From the scanners, I heard more police officers were inbound and the map showed about 10 other units on the way with SWAT and a bomb unit. Crap, They even had the bomb unit on the way and the paramedics. As I was thinking that this was going to go nowhere and it was time for me to make my appearance, the criminals rolled down the back of the SUV that they arrived at the scene in, and they had a freaking Gatling gun. Everything was going bad, and it was time for me to stop my wait and see mentality. Keep me informed about the situation from here, Alfred. And with that, I was gone inbound towards the bank. No one was going to die today, not if I had the power to make a difference. I understood I wasn't the hero that this city deserves. I was far too self-centered and I had too many schemes in the works, but that doesn't mean I can't try to be their hero. Everyone deserves a chance to make a difference, and since I was going to be this city's hero, I had to do my best. This was one of those moments when I was in the zone. Everything within my sight went from blurry to silent, and still back to a blurred image in my eyes. I was pulling so much power and converting it into speed. I knew I did a personal best on my 0 to top speeds, but it was necessary because I knew that the Gatling gun was already spun up and firing while I was giving Alfred his orders. The first thing I witnessed when I got to the scene was the Gatling gun ripping through a police cruiser, tearing it in half. Luckily, everything was frozen for me, but I was also witnessing the frozen image of a police officer beginning to be torn in half from behind his cruiser. He would be the first save of this evening. Then I had to systematically reduce the criminals to nothing, but I was in the public eye and I couldn't leave any bodies. With the officer in my arms, I brought him back to the secondary line of defense that they had set up. Then I went back for the rest. There was no way I was going to leave any cops behind the first perimeter line. With everyone removed, I went back for all the ammo and any weapons that might have been left in the vehicles. Then it was time to take a look into the bank, but I was unaware of any booby traps. Even with the speeds I was going, it was still better not to trip anything and cause any casualties. With my back now turned to the bank, it was best to get a situational rundown from the cops and also get an update from Alfred. There was no communication within the Speed Force, which is now turning into a very glaring issue. Lacking communication within the Speed Force was a massive weak spot of which I should have been aware. First priority, though, was the cop I saved from getting shot up. With a quick inspection of his wounds, I found that it was just a hole in his side. That Gatling gun had taken a chunk out of him, and he needed his wound bound and compressed. With that taken care of, I brought my perception back to the normal flow of time. That was when my ears were assaulted with all kinds of noise. The cops all freaked, finding themselves in a new, safer location. The Gatling gun was chewing away at the cop car, and that same cop was currently screaming his lungs out next to me. "I don't wanna die, man. I don't wanna die. I can't die like this, not today, please, not today." I took a look at his badge, and it said, "Murphy. Officer Murphy, I got you. No worries, I was able to get you out of there." I spoke to him while trying to keep him down and out of view. That way he did not become a target again. That statement and his yelling spooked every cop within hearing distance. "Don't move." They all yelled at me. Yeah, like that's going to help this situation we are in. How about you all stop pointing guns at the person who just saved all your ungrateful asses? Damn New York cops. He needs medical attention. That Gatling gun took a chunk out his side before I was able to arrive and intervene to perform a rescue. I was able to apply a compress and tie it up, but he will still need medics. That caused everyone to just stare at me. This didn't last too long because Captain Stacy came to break everyone up and see what the commotion was. And right next to Captain Stacy was my dad. Crap, he wasn't supposed to be here at all. He was on a case on the other side of the Bronx. He was not supposed to be here, and this had me freaking out. My hands got all clammy and my chest felt tight. Our eyes met, and I could tell he was not happy about me showing up here. He was worried about me, and I was worried about him. He had no powers, and these guys were using heavy weaponry. This was not going to end well, and he was here. It took me a moment to realize I was hyperventilating, and Captain Stacy was speaking to me. My dad was not going to die here because of some criminals, not today. I am not a fan of vigilantes, but you have earned some goodwill when you rescued my guys. Why you here, kid? I came to give assistance. This situation is all kinds of messed up. Also, the way I see it, this can only end one way. I spoke to him, trying to ignore the death stare my own dad was giving me. "Yeah, tell me, how is that, kid?" "Well, since they brought with them heavy weaponry. It seems to me that they are not just here for money, they are here to do some serious damage." I refuse to back down, Captain. Stacy can bluff all he wants, I know I'm needed here. "So you're going to just throw yourself in the mix and do what exactly?" asked my dad from his spot next to Gwen's dad. "Well, that's why I am here talking to the captain. I need to be aware of the situation, otherwise, I would end up doing more harm than helping. For example, I heard the bomb disposal unit was called in. I was starting to get pissed. Lives were on the lines and they had issues taking help. They gave each other a look and then decided to let me in on the situation. We are aware of a kill switch in the leader's hand, and we are also currently aware of 15 civilians currently wearing a vest. Spoke Captain Stacy as he slowly tilted his head to the side while judging me. Any booby traps around the window or any entrances? I had to ask because I still couldn't phase through walls. I needed to make sure Alfred located Kitty Pryde soon because her ability was super overpowered and super versatile if used correctly. We are aware of claymores located at the back entryway hidden, but I called in a favor for my old SEALs team and we got a sniffer to help locate them. Spoke my dad, though he was still pinning me with his death glare. I was starting to get frustrated with him, but I wouldn't be the one to give away our familiarity with each other. Okay, a plan was formulating in my mind. I am sure I can outrun a laser trip or a wire trip. I was able to outrun the Gatling gun bullets, and that had a variable rate of fire ranging from 2,000 to 6,000 rounds per minute. That was going to be tricky, but if I struck from the backside of the building and ran everyone out the front, I should have no issues. With that plan set in mind, I relayed everything to Captain Stacy. Though the face my father made was none too pleased at all. This had to be done, and we had no other options, unfortunately. I knew he knew this. I could tell he ran the numbers and plans through his mind over and over again. The reason why I knew this was because I got my bad habit of grinding my back molars from him. Anytime I had a tough choice to make, I do the same thing, and my mother always scolds me for it. He gave me a nod, then almost gave me a hug. We could only settle for a handshake though. Captain Stacy was talking to the leader of the bomb squad, and my dad went to coordinate the other police officers to receive the criminals. This gave me time to get in the zone. This was not the speed heist. These were people with bombs connected to them. They were scared and just wanted the day to be over with. Everyone had to be saved. There was no room for errors. Not today. Not now. I started to do some stretches with my powers. I never had to stretch, but I was being filled up with nervous energy, and I had to do something with myself. With a look up at the sky, I noticed a news helicopter. Man, I thought they weren't allowed within city limits. I am getting tired of them. And off to the side, I also noticed more cameras pointed in my direction. As I was about to respond to one of the anchors calling me over, I was relieved when Captain Stacy called for me to take a look at the building schematics. I had to play this cool because Alfred had already brought it up, and I didn't need the police to know I had knowledge of the situation beyond what they already told me. This is the entrance we have a video feed on. It's electromagnetically locked. We have permission to cut the power to the whole block. This will give you access to the back alley entrance through the back. Now, are you sure you can get everyone out here? Asked Captain Stacy. I am positive, sir. I will make sure to get the leader first, so that way the kill switch is out of play. Then I will bring all the civilians out, then the criminals. I was feeling confident about this now that I had others to take care of the things I couldn't. Alright kid, pull this off and we won't arrest you. You will have to catch me first. This caused everyone to chuckle. I wanted to say something to my dad, but I couldn't. Hell, I wanted a hug and him to tell me I had this, but we were on to opposite sides of the law. I was the vigilante trying to be a hero, and he was a detective in way over his head. We were just trying to save people in our own ways, and we were both in over our heads. I took a runner's starting stance. It was time to clear my mind. Clack. That was my start. All the power went out with that sound. That sound filled me with more drive. That sound sparked my will. That sound unleashed all that I was upon the criminal-infested building, and they would not be ready for what was about to smash into them. My very first step was so strong and powerful the asphalt beneath my feet sank in like it was made of soft clay. Each of my steps left ripples in my wake, only to explode out long after I had already left the location. I had a purpose, and I had the drive to save everyone. Nothing was going to get in my way, not this soft ground, not the door in my way, and not some razor coming out of C4. I was already around the corner before a nanosecond even passed. It was weird being able to tell how much time had passed within my own perception. Today I was going to test my Speed Force aura and see if it would allow me to pull of a juggernaut move. With the aura condensed in front of me, it was shaped like a wedge roughly 5 feet in front while being 3 feet wide. It worked and the locked door to the back folded open like a fresh can of sardines. I was in the bank building now, and I knew where my target was. He was sitting in the manager's room on the phone talking to the negotiator outside. And in his left hand, he had the kill switch already in an activated dead man's switch. Damn it. Crap. Crap. These bastards were already playing hardball, and now there is this damn situation. It was a dead man's switch. I was positive I would be able to solve it, but he needed to be outside first. I had no reservation on hurting this bastard. I grabbed him by the back of his neck and brought him out to the circle of officers waiting for the criminals. I left him there, then took one of the officers' flex cuffs and bound both his hands and feet. Since I was positive I could get the dead man's switch before the relays within it could even move, I removed it from his grip and placed it within one of the bomb unit operator's hands. It wasn't being covered in any speed aura at all, since I didn't need this thing going off prematurely. With it safely within the operator's hands, I decided to go the extra mile and tie his hands together with his belt. No way is he going to be able to throw this away when he realizes what he is carrying. With the main boss and the dead man's switch taken care of, it was time for his little group to be next. On my way back through the front door, I noticed that each of my steps towards the back was still giving off ripples within the asphalt. Damn, I was doing a personal best, and there was nothing that could judge my speeds. Pushing these thoughts out of my mind, it was time to get these fools. Rushing the guy at the back, I removed his vest of shotgun ammo and then stripped him of all his gear, even his combat boots and gloves. I left nothing on him but his pants, shirt, and socks. With all his gear settled down nice and neat, it was time for him to meet the circle of cops so he can have a little kumbaya moment. With him in flex cuffs, it was time for the rest of his team. I went to work on the rest. I was able to pull 20 guys out of the bank building. They were all stripped of shoes, gloves, and weapons. I even unloaded all the weapons and organized everything. All chambers were cleared and all rounds were accounted for. I was having no mistakes, not today. Then I went around searching for anyone that might be hiding away. I found one guy in the latrine trying to drop a log. Well, crap, today was going to be his very unlucky day. I pulled his pants up and did him like the rest, but unfortunately, he will need one nasty cleanup later on. Now it was time to get all the civilians out of here. The first lady was huddled next to a flower pot, desperately holding on. For just a second I wanted to just break her fingers to get her ass to let go, but I was here in the role of a hero and that would be a no-go. So I just broke the vase and took her while she was holding onto the broken parts. With her clear, it was time to move on to all the rest. 15 people saved with bomb vests, all brought to the bomb unit circle. I even took the time to set each person up with a bomb unit operator. Then it was time to get out the rest of the people. They didn't have any types of the vest, and with a once-over for everyone they were all in the clear. Then I went back for the dog. No human being alive should ever leave a good doggo behind. With one final check over everything, I also made sure to check the roof and I found nothing. With that finished, I had to find out who was in the chopper. I knew they were using it to run new cameras, but something about it was raising my suspicions. Who I found in the pilot seat sent my ass hairs on edge. It was Antone Triplett, one of the SHIELD agents from the TV show, and out the side was an actual news crew. Okay, this told me they were still in observe mode and not capture or death mode. Now that I knew SHIELD was keeping eyes out for me, I had to try and tread more carefully. It was time to return to the ground. Now that the bank was clear of all people and animals, my job here was almost over. Within a span of an instant to me, I was back on the ground and it was time for some style points. With a run, I started a 3-point slide towards Captain Stacy and my dad leaning over the blueprints of the bank. I pulled off the Flash's signature slide while bringing my perception back down. Again my world exploded with sounds and motions. The cops cause a dog pile onto all the criminals and I could help but make a face when I say the bathroom bandits' pants go all wet. My dad and Captain Stacy all jumped while the bomb squad all kicked into motion checking over the vests. Luckily, I had tied that one guy's hands together because after he took a closer look at the trigger he was holding he almost dropped it. Damn butterfingers. My dad gave me a smile and a nod while Captain Stacy only nodded at me. Good going, kiddo, my dad whispered to me once Captain Stacy was out of hearing range. You doing all right? Did you eat today? I know your metabolism is higher now. You know what, never mind. It's time for you to go before anyone wants you to take that mask off. Officer Blake, it was an honor working alongside you. That was all I could say since one of the bomb guys was freaking out and someone was coming closer. I knew I was supposed to be elated, but I couldn't even share with my dad right now. I just pulled off the impossible, but he had his badge and too many people were around for me to even get a hug. That was the only thing that soured this whole affair, but I had to put my feelings aside because the bomb squad side was getting rowdy. I walked my way over with my dad by my side when I heard the dreaded statement. It's on a timer, Captain. If he doesn't enter the pin in the next 2 minutes, all these vests are going to go boom. Even though we have the switch in our hands, it's not going to save us from these 15 bombs, and we don't have enough people to defuse them all. Spoke the lead operator. How big of a bang are we talking about? With my question, everyone turned to face me. Yet, no one told me to leave. I had just pulled off the impossible, with no civilians lost. Well, each one has about a pound of C4 covered in a vest of about 10 pounds of ball bearings, marbles, etc., etc. You're looking at about 13 feet, and I would double that with the stuff they have in these vests. Was the answer I received. I knew what had to be done, but I was not happy about it at all. I actually wanted to just absorb the kinetic activity within the molecules, but with shield hovering over my head. I was left with only one option, and that was to run the bomb out to the water. Wrap them all together, I will take them over the water. Kid, you've done enough. You don't need to do any more. Spoke the lead bomb squad operator. I was already so tired of this crap. Things needed to get done, and they keep getting in my way. Wrap them neat, or I will take them tangled. I don't know how to put them together without messing up the wires and making us all go boom. I need your help right now, and you and your guys are the only ones who can pull this off in the next 1 minute 32 seconds. With my statement, he gave me a nod and just turned and left to yell out orders for his men. Why are you doing this, kid? I wasn't even sure who had asked me that question. My legs felt like jelly, and my stomach was doing flips. I still spiked up on adrenaline, and man, this was going to be one hell of a run. I watched all the vest get tied together with none of the cables pinching. They even gave me a makeshift backpack handles. I went over and got into my runner's stance as they loaded me up. The timer now only had 40 seconds left. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes to clear my head, but when I opened them, my father was standing right in front of me. You don't have to do this. You're right, I don't, but with great power comes great responsibility. I heard a gasp from somewhere behind me, but I was already gone. This was what all heroes did. They made the sacrifice play. And now I was about to do my own, and that knowledge gave me an eerie calm. This would be accomplished no matter what. My goal was the upper bay near the Statue of Liberty. I had a bomb strapped to my back, and I couldn't even use the full force of my powers. I was far too worried about my lightning tripping anything and causing a premature boom. So I ran with all that I am. As I got to the middle of the bay, I felt the shockwave ripple across my skin that sent my sphincter to pucker up. It's never the blast that kills you, it's always the shockwave that hits you first. Most deaths occur when the shockwave hits. The shockwave was capable of bypassing the body's layers and pulverize your internals. This leads to instant death, and then you get vaporized by the explosion. I was having none of this today. I gave up all pretense of trying not to trigger the bomb and drew on more power. I knew where I needed to be able to survive this, but I had an unruly passenger, and I needed it to be left behind here. With it exploding at near point-blank range on my back, I took off forward with the already tattered straps. I needed more power to escape, and I must get away to at least the Statue of Liberty. I pulled more power and envisioned my goal. Then I went for it. I was met with a brick wall underneath gigantic green feet. I smashed right into the walls of Liberty Island. I had somehow figured out point-to-point teleportation, but I was far too tired to celebrate. That hit was hard, and the floor was looking so inviting. Maybe I should just take a nap. Yeah, a nap would be nice. Ben. Ben. Can you hear me? Ben, come in. Please respond. The fastest man alive, semi-legit. I was lost and floating. I was floating in what should have been darkness. There was no feeling, weightlessness, and no self. I was just being. And just as suddenly as I was there in the darkness, the sky burst alive in a crackle of lightning. There was so much color, so much flavor, and yet they all came from the same source. From the Speed Force, there were yellows, blues, greens, and reds. Lightning in the shades of purple and pink, so many shades that I never knew was possible. Womp. Ha. Womp. Womp. Where am I? Womp. 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 Wait, I was running, and the bomb exploded. Then I figured out how to teleport, but I fell asleep. Womp. 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 Crap. This was no time to sleep, and with that, I bolted upright. I was currently laying down under the Statue of Liberty, and on the wall before me, there was a comical-shaped person-sized imprint on the wall. Yet, I had to place that noise. With a turn of my head, I noticed Coast Guard helicopters roaming over the bay. As I was wondering how long I was out, my comms cheeped. Ben, please, come in, please. Please, please come in. That was Gwen's voice. Ah, Lightspeed here. How long was I out? Oh, thank the heavens. And now that was Jean's voice. I guess it was time to get back to the warehouse, but I needed a situational update first. Alfred, help me out, buddy. What happened when I left with the bomb, and please update the police that I survived. Your GPS placed you at the Statue of Liberty for 20 minutes before you came back on communications. Also, Captain Stacy and your father called on the Coast Guards to do a search and rescue in case you were unable to make it back to land. I would also recommend returning to base. The authorities have been notified of your survival, but we currently have a guest you should be aware of, and I have been informed not to say anything. Who has the authority to override you, Alfred? That worried me because even though he was new, his systems should not be easy to be subverted. I am unable to say, sir. Please get here soon. Now that sounds like he was pleading. I had no clue Alfred could even plead for help. With renewed vigor, I took off into the sky. The girls sounded okay, but Alfred sure wasn't. That worried me a lot, and I couldn't reply back over the comms in case he was in a compromised position. I was already up 100 feet above the bay heading back. I wanted to teleport again, but I wasn't sure how to pull it off. I was far too much in the moment to have remembered how that even happened. Hell, the Flash was never able to teleport in the comics or in the show, so this was a whole new territory for me to explore. That thought was pushed to the back of my mind as I came upon the docks heading for my warehouse. Outside waiting on me was both Gwen and Jean, and they both looked ruffled. I guess thinking I was dead could fray a few nerves. Right as I touched down in a superhero landing, Gwen whacked me right across the head. Oh, what did I do wrong now? I was not expecting to get hit upside the head after I had clearly just saved the day. That was not a reward a hero should be getting after a stressful situation. That's what you deserve after the stunt you just pulled. This can't keep happening, Benjamin. This was pure luck. You can't keep pulling stunts like these. You're going to get hurt, or someone will get hurt from your recklessness, Ben. Gwen was yelling my ears off, but I couldn't refute her on anything. Yeah, this was a lucky fluke and things were happening far too fast even to my taste. But I had to intervene, otherwise everything would have turned out a lot worse. Yet I couldn't tell her that. She didn't care about the powers or the situation. She was worried about my moronic actions. All I could do was sigh and take it all in stride. With a step forward, I pulled her into a kiss mid-speech on my lack of skills. She tasted so divine as our tongues dueled as I savored her. She tasted of honey and berries. When we finally came up for air, I noticed the look Jean was giving us, so I walked over to her while holding Gwen and pulled her into the hug also. No one gets left behind. With that, she kissed me on the cheek and melted into the three-way hug. Help, please. Then Alfred's plea woke me up out of my little warm bubble of comfort. He was getting more emotion in his voice. Would you ladies like to tell me what's going on with Alfred? They both shared a look, then turned away from me, but it was Jean that spoke up. That is all on you. Please don't drag us down with you. We are innocent and shall remain that way. I gave them both a squeeze for that statement, but that was a clue. Someone was here, and we all knew who it was. I just didn't know who it could be on that short list. One major possibility would be my dad, but I didn't think he had it in him to scare Alfred. With those thoughts tossed to the back of my mind, I carried the girls with me into the Overwatch station of the warehouse. When I got there, though, I was greeted with a giant chair facing the monitors and away from me. This piqued my interest all right. I was touched by a burning curiosity about who it was that was pulling off a James Bond-style supervillain move on me. So I put the girls down and ignored the name calling they threw in my direction. Yet as soon as I stepped closer, the chair turned around and my soul flew out of my body. Oh no. My mother was here, and she was using Alfred's Omni-drone body as if he was a cat to pet. I made a turn to run away, but Alan was standing in front of a locked door. Crap, I was trapped. So there was a bank robbery today, and guess who was there when I turned on the TV? She was petting Alfred's head like he was a cat while pinning me with her gaze. The word trouble couldn't describe how deep I was, so instead of defending myself, it was best to drag another down with me. Dad was there also in Manhattan. He didn't go to that stakeout in the Bronx as he told us. Not only that, but he was up on the front lines near that massive Gatling gun. Yeah, snitching on my old man will hopefully take her anger away from me and get it focused on him. Just that statement caused her left eye to twitch and her grip crushed the arm on the chair she was sitting in. Crap, she was far too strong for just being a baseline human. She had already subverted all my help, so I might as well face this. So what were you thinking? That I could save everyone, that I was the only person that could make a difference. Gosh, she was eerily silent. The only thing I was getting out of her was a raised eyebrow. I was sweating buckets and the girls were enjoying watching me squirm. Even now Alfred was silent and just letting her pet his drone body. Yet, again I still had no understanding of how she struck such fear into him. That's such a subpar answer. Benjamin, you're going to get yourself and others killed. Why are you pursuing this route? I either stand for something or I stand for nothing. All of you think I am being a hero just because I have the powers. This is far more than just me. There are thousands of metahumans out there in hiding, afraid of discovery. They need someone to stand up and bridge the gap with the rest of the world. Yeah, my choice of being a hero might have been selfish on my end, but that's what the world will respond to. A hero saving the day, just like a Saturday morning cartoon. Things had to change in a major way, and I was extremely firm about that. Yes, I had many failings and I was steadily improving, but being the first hero in New York City was going to mean something to the world when I opened my mouth and spoke up about metahuman issues. Mom, I have to do this. I can't stop no matter what. Yes, I know there are plenty of others, but no one will make this stand, so I have to. She just sat there and stared at me with those hard gray eyes of ours. So tell me, what is this? I hear you have acquired $38,600,000. $38,600,022, grandmother, came Alfred's input, and that caused my eyes to widen in shock. Grandmother, when did she become a grandmother? Thank you. Oh yes, before I forget. Tell me, Benjamin, why wasn't I informed when I became a grandmother? At this point, even Alan behind me started to chuckle at my situation. Ugh, and there was no way out of this without pushing his old ass aside to make it through the door. That loot was liberated from some very unsavory types. So I helped it along into my pockets as a seed to help my company grow. You liberated more than 30 million is what you're going with? Yes. With that answer, I snapped to attention because there is no way I am going to turn any of my hard-earned loot. With a raised eyebrow, she crushed my hopes. And what about my cyber-grandchild? Do we need to have the talk about the birds and the bees, Benjamin? Oh no, the dreaded talk. I have been avoiding that for as long as I could remember. Oh, for the love of all that is good in the world, please, I beg you, not in front of the girls. Then how about we talk about your baby photos? Alfred, photos please. And with that, all of my baby photos that we had taken over the years popped up on the screen. That little traitor. Right, the middle was me in my duck suit for Halloween when I was 6. The photo that looked like I peed myself when I was 4. All the embarrassing photos over the years were up on display for all to see. I just wanted to crawl myself into a hole in the ground. Everyone was laughing at my expense, and she didn't even crack a smile. She just sat there patting Alfred's drone body, pinning me with her stare. Then she dug the knife deeper. You're grounded for a month to reflect on your actions. Your liberated loot, as you called it, will be used to fix up the warehouse, and then you can start your company. I will also call in a favor for my old work days to get someone to come train you. That brought me up short. As long as I have been alive in this new life, she or my dad has never mentioned what she used to do, and any time I asked she would deflect. I understand there is no way I can tell you not to use your powers, but you're going to need training. Yes, I'm upset about the bomb situation, and yes, I don't have all the facts to know if it could have been avoided or not, but be that as it may, your actions have been unacceptable. So 1 month and you will get no compromise with me. That upset me. I just saved the day, and all I was going to get for all my troubles was more trouble and getting grounded. Freaking hell, man. I was a gray, and she knew it because as soon as I gritted my teeth, she smiled at me, and I knew I fell right into her trap. She was already looking for a reason to lock me up in the house, and my playing hero today gave her just that. Now I am going to be stuck cleaning out the garage and whatever menial task she can come up with. I fell right into her trap, with no way of escaping. What, you think you would just come back here and receive accolades and grand applause for your deeds? With my head down, I could help but feel a little shame. Yeah, I wanted some praises. I just saved the freaking day. Be humble or the world will humble you, Ben, spoke my mom as she got up from her seat. Yeah, I understand, Mom. Well, let's go home. Girls, let's go. And with that, she strode right out the warehouse like she owned the place, and Alfred trailed right alone behind her. He stopped, took a look at me, and when he headed her call out for him, he scuttled right after her. Damn traitors, all of them. With my mom's declaration, I changed clothes and headed out with the rest. It had been a few weeks since the bomb accident had happened. My father came home one day to tell me the police commissioner wanted to give me an award, and the mayor's office and governors wanted to do a whole ceremony about it. I was super ecstatic. Then it turns out that Officer Murphy I rescued was the son of New York's police commissioner. That was when my enthusiasm went out of the window. This wasn't because I was doing my share to help this city. The dreaded elected officials wanted to make this a political play. Yet I was stuck inside. but I could scheme and make plans. With Alfred Trader's help, I could make them possible. I asked my mother about why he was following her around and taking her orders, and all she said to me was the creator of his creator. Bloody mom logic. I still don't see how he can just jump ship so easily. Lucky for me, she relented when she heard I was going to be rewarded by the city, so I was now perched upon a rooftop, overlooking the parade grounds in Central Park. We are here today to give the key to the city because a citizen chose to stand up for good and use his abilities to accomplish great feats in service to our great city. Join me in a round of applause to welcome our city's hero Lightspeed. That was my cue to appear. Oh, this was going to be good, it was just too bad I was grounded. Ugh, some hero, I am freaking grounded and can't even enjoy my own ceremony. With a leap, I was clear of the building I was standing on. With my body charged up with lightning cracklings around me, I came down in a classic 3-point hero landing. Yeah, it was shit on my knees, but I was going to milk this for all I could before my mom decided it was time to cut me off at the knees. Soon as I landed, the city went wild. And oh boy was I feeling the moment. Up front was the mayor, the governor, and the police commissioner. Next to them was the police captain, and then the other multi-millionaire businessman of the city. But unfortunately for me, though, Norman Osborn was front and center with one Wilson Fisk, the kingpin himself. And now my big day was ruined, but I had to keep up the smile for the cameras. There was no way I was going to mess up this moment. I accepted my award, gave a little speech, then moved on to kissing babies and taking pictures with the politicians. When I looked over to my parents' location, my mother was giving me the third-degree eye laser, and I knew it was time to go. Lucky this was New York, and crime was always happening. Norman and Fisk were trying hard to get my attention and have a chat with me, but I was in no way a savvy politician, so I had to avoid them like the plague. With my warning and awards in hand, I gave the excuse of having to stop crime and took off towards the nearest sounds of sirens. If the car thief was turned over to the cops with a few broken ribs, well, that's just too bad for him. With everything all taken care of, I went back to my warehouse to change and wait on the family. Gwen was the first to give me a hug and a kiss, though she was still mad at me but was happy I made it in time to save her father and the rest. With a hug from Jean, I noticed my mother giving me the prison guard look, tapping at her watch. Sigh, I hate this whole grounded bullcrap. I saved the day, I shouldn't have to suffer like this. We had purchased the whole block and we were renovating the whole warehouse to encompass everything. Underground walkways were being added in, and so were living quarters. I had ideas to make Star Industries its own entity within New York. Any earthquake, flooding, alien invasion, Atlantis attacks this building is going to be able to survive everything once I finish making all my upgrades. Alfred's systems had been moved to the house as per my mother's orders, and my dad didn't even fight her on the subject. I guess that was my fault for throwing him to the wolves like that, although the look on his face when he walked through the door and seen the look on her face was priceless. He turned around to run away, and she moved so swiftly I almost thought she had the speed force also. With one yank he was dragged right into the house. With my goodbyes in order, it was time to head home to my prison. I had completed everything from raking the yard to cleaning the garage and shingles. Yet, I still had to suffer through being trapped in the house. The only small reprieves I had was when Gwen, Jean or Peter and the rest comes to visit. We pulled up to the house and the lights were on. This was strange because I distinctly remember turning everything off when we left. That's strange. Do you see any cars around, Benjamin? My mother asked me while looking around. With a swift look, all I was able to place was all the neighbors' cars that are normally there this time of day. We all piled out and my dad went for his bat out the trunk. Since he was in full dress today for the ceremony, he chooses not to bring his service pistol, which in hindsight now was not a great choice. Yet, what really freaked me out was when he closed the trunk and hefted his bat in his hand. My mom had a massive ass 38 in her hands. Holy hell, where did she have that monster cannon stashed at? Wait, why does she even have a gun? I knew that gun really well, and I had always thought it was my dad's. There was custom porting along the front barrel, and she even had a suppressor connected with custom sights sitting on top. I'm just happy she didn't have an extended mag attached also. Whoever was in our house was about to have one very bad day. They lined up against the side of the door in preparation to breach like we were going to face some type of terrorist. My dad held up his hands to sign for me to take off and smash whoever it was inside, and they would follow up behind me. That was a plan I could get behind. He helped up his hands and I got ready. 1, 2, 3. The door flew open and I took off for the perp. I was going to enjoy smashing in this home intruder. I took off in a flash, all puns intended. The door was in my way and there was no way I was going to smash it open and end up in even more trouble for my efforts. Layering my Speed Force aura onto my left hand, I pushed it forward that way when I made contact with the door the aura would wrap around the door and her hinges keeping it from breaking down on my entry. When I got into the house, I found him standing in the hallway with his back turned to me. He was tall, easily 6 feet and inches. He was examining the portraits on the wall with his back wide open. It was strange though he was wearing a trench coat. No one wears a trench coat anymore except that pirate. No, it couldn't be him. How? When? I refuse to believe that it's him. I had to push all those distracting thoughts to the side, though cause with a grab I flipped him around and slammed him against the wall. F me sideways with a salty catus. It was Nicholas James Fury here at my house. How in the hell did he find me? I only do hero gig for my warehouse and not here, so how in the hell did he find me? While I was having a meltdown, my mom and dad came bursting in through the door behind me. I had Fury held up in a hold when my mom came up next to me and said something that made me wish I was dreaming. Nikki, why are you here? You said you didn't have any time off. Nikki, who da hell was Nikki? I don't know any Nikki. Oh no, that can't be possible. I would have known, right? They would have told me about something this monumental. Ben, put your uncle down. I can see him losing color. My heart stopped. Yeah, that's it, my heart stopped and am dying because I couldn't have heard that right. The same people I am trying to avoid like the plague was not only related to me, but I was the nephew of the man that ran the whole bloody thing. I was hyperventilating now across from him on the wall. This was far worse than when the professor just power dropped my crap and let out that I had powers. My vision was blurring at the edge and I was feeling woozy. My legs felt like jelly and I needed something to hold me up. Fury looked at me with that raised eyebrow of his, like my reaction was just something amusing for him to witness. Well, baby sis, I was in town looking for the hero that got his awards today. Very interesting, I couldn't find him after he left to go stop some criminals. When he said those dreadfully awful words, baby sis, I felt the pain in my chest flare. Alright, Ben, enough of the dramatics, it's just your Uncle Nicky. Hey, Nick, can you stop being a bloody spy for once and wait for us to come home? I felt the betrayal of my very being. My dad even knew who he was, and no one decided it was in my best interest to let me know. I waited for you in your home. I don't see anything wrong with that. Nicky, stop messing with them. Honey, help Ben. He is in his drama mode right now. I am not being dramatic, Mom, that's Nick Fury, thy Nick Fury as in the big time, Popo, the Fuzz, the man, the black suits. He is Big Brother and Skynet incarnate, and no one seems like it was fit to tell me about him being my uncle. I was already beyond hysterics now. This was beyond my worst nightmares, and those involved me being lost in some crazy dimension when I piss of the Ancient One or some big bad cosmic being. Ben, but aren't I already the Popo? Nah, Dad, you're just regular cops. Fury is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they like to stick people in dark holes and throw away the keys. That statement though caused Fury or Uncle Nicky to raise his eyebrows. Yes, I already know that, Ben. I used to be an agent also. Now that statement from my mom brought me up short. Well, crap. I really am the odd man out, aren't I? You seem to know a lot about S.H.I.E.L.D., Benjamin. Of course I know all about S.H.I.E.L.D., I hacked you guys ages ago. Crap, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, I figured you did. You have always been quirky like that. Figured that you did also. Fury just raised his eyebrow again, and I had to facepalm since it turns out my parents have been far more aware of my deeds than I thought. Alright, Nicky, I called you in for a favor because I need you to get him a teacher. Again, my mom kept calling him by that damn name as in freaking Nick Fury, as in the spy of all spies. I can't be related to this man. I just can't, Mom, I can't be related to him. Please say you're just messing with me. I was already past the groveling stage and went straight to begging mode. I don't know, Jay Hay doesn't seem to be enthusiastic about getting my help. Again, them sharing nicknames back and forth is hurting my chest. Yeah, I had to be going through hallucinations. Then I heard laughs coming from the kitchen. Who is the drama queen, and Dad, why is my aunt calling you Nicky? And then Michelle Jones from that one Spider-Man movie comes walking out of the kitchen eating a sandwich. He is right in calling you the Fuzz though, Dad. With that, Fury rolled his eye at her. Come meet your cousin and his dad. Now I was just one more surprise from really passing out. I was grounded, related to Nick Fury, and now Michelle Jones from the movie was here as my cousin. What the shit, there are two MJs now. I was afraid for what this Marvel universe has in store for Spider-Man. Ugh, everything was so messed up now. Most if not all my plans for S.H.I.E.L.D. were now trashed and burning. Well, this works out both ways really. I was here on behalf of S.H.I.E.L.D. looking for Lightspeed and then was going to stop by to drop her off with you. Wait, why is he leaving his daughter here? I asked because it seems like no one wanted to let me know about the vital information in this weird family. Who just drops the bomb of fury and then used to be a spy, then just breeze by it like that. For the love of all that is chocolate, why am I going through this? Yes, she is going to finish senior year next year with you, Peter and Gwen. My mom said that like it was the end of the world. I wasn't a drama queen, but I was starting to think to go that route would be the best in this situation. Yeah, drama queen, we shall be schoolmates until you annoy me and I decide to off you and replace you, Michelle said that with such a straight face it was scary. Damn me, I think all the women in my family inherited that knock you out vibe. So tell me, Ben, how long have you been this light speed? Fury asked me while eyeing me still. Ugh, for the love of hot chocolate, can we please stay on the topic of you being a super spook? We long past that, Ben, keep up. Of course, Uncle Nicky. That gained a snort of laughter from Michelle and my mom since my dad was long gone to change and leave us to our own family antics. Okay, how about this, we can talk about me being a super spy if we talk about you hacking into S.H.I.E.L.D. secure servers. Fury told me, staring me down. Yeah, I decided to plead the fifth and pass on that interview. I spoke up, turning away from him and going for some food. This day has just been all over the place, and I just wanted to eat the stress away. I was so totally done with this craziness. A week had gone by since that crazy day. Michelle had fit right in with the rest of our weird bunch at school. She joined the Midtown High Decathlon with Peter and Ned, but didn't want to join the dance classes with Gwen and Jean. They were not happy with that though, but all was forgiven when she came up with the bright idea to take over a section currently under renovation. Gwen was already getting herself a state-of-the-art lab, but now she took up the whole floor that she shares with Jean and Michelle. Jean turned her section into a fashion studio, while Michelle decided she wanted a library dedicated to the criminal mind. All that didn't matter to me as much as right now did. I was currently in the danger room sparring with Logan while testing out my imagination and powers. Currently, I was cheating with a 6 arms combo, and boy do I enjoy winning. I enjoy winning a whole lot. I currently had Logan on the defense up against the rim of the ring. My 2 lower arms currently had him by the wrist, and my upper arms were smashing down on him from the top. I was going to win, and there was nothing he could do about it. I should have known better. Logan ducked low to avoid the upper arms, and then slammed the top of his head into my jaw. That sent me flailing back as I tried to regain my balance. Snicked. And with his claws out, he went on to dismember my extra arms. With a flip, I reconstructed them and charged back in. My actual arms were tied up behind my back since this was just pure training of my force constructs. This time though, instead of creating normal arms, it was time to play his way. I constructed 3 arms on each side but added something extra to each. Since he was using claws, why can't I use claws too? With a thought, the claws on my arms popped out. This caused Logan to draw up a step since I didn't just copy his 3 claw per hand. I went for the X-23's 2 claw per hand, and since I was now rocking 6 hands, his ass was mine. We both smiled at each other with savage grins. We knew what the game was. We could spill as much blood as we liked. As long as we didn't cut off a body part, everything was fair game. With a lunge, we clashed in the middle of the ring. Boom. He swung, taking off the lower 2 arms on the left again. But I was already ready for that. So while I was leaning back, I swung up one of my arms, getting him across the chest, but it was far too shallow. Logan took the blow like a man possessed and came at me hard with a kick towards my shins. I had no choice but to jump. That led me right into his trap. His right was already heading my way, so I had no choice but to sacrifice my right to constructed arms also. I was getting tired of losing my arms to his crap. With his claws embedded in my arms, I spun myself, kicking out my foot, catching him across the jaw. I almost cursed out because of his damn metal bones again. He staggered and I was back in it. I gave up the other 4 arms, went at him hard. It was fun playing around with 6 arms. But that was then. This is now, and beating Logan had been a goal of mine since he started to kick my ass up and down the danger room. Logan's right came at my head, but I was already prepared for it, but that movement placed him back on the right footing. I went for under his extended arm and got him in the pit, yet his left came in and sliced the arm off again. Damn cheater. With my left gone, I lashed out with my right, embedding it into his right guard, then lashed out with my leg, getting him up into the air. Unfortunately, he was far too heavy, so I had to push in and up under him to get his fat ass up off the ground. Ayer Greg. With a mighty heave, I used 2 large newly constructed arms to grab and throw him out of the ring. So you're finally learning. Not bad, kid. Your first win out of what, 63 matches? Yeah, 63 matches of getting my ass beaten black and blue, only to be healed up within seconds. This was my first win ever. Yeah, I had to cheat to get it, but there is no trying to win if you don't cheat. Aren't you the one telling me to try to win no matter what? Yeah, you tell anyone and I stick you where you won't be able to heal, Logan stated while flashing his claws. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't go bragging about this one. Though now that the warm-up was over, it was time to try something super fancy. While I have been grounded, I have been taking notes on monks and their meditations. That was being combined with my own knowledge of my abilities, and what it has shown itself being able to do. The Speed Force was doing everything from giving me oxygen at an unbelievable speed, to constructing clothing and travel distances by teleportation. So I had a crazy idea to use it to help Logan gain his memories back. So Logan, I have this thing I want to try. It might work, it might not, so yeah. Alright kid, what harebrained idea you came up with now? You see my powers cross time and space itself. So what I was thinking was using the same ability I used to make my clothes and arms and see if we can't jog some memories. I was pleading at this point. I wanted him to know about the whole James Howlett, and I was aching for an adventure with the Wolverine. Logan started to mull it over. I understood his reasons for not jumping at it. He could find happiness or pain within his memories. He wasn't sure which he was more worried about, but that had to be off-putting for him. That and finally being able to know, and what if it didn't work? These thoughts must be plaguing him right now. Alright kid, but whatever we learn stays between us. You got it. Yeah, I didn't need to be told that. I was in this for the adventure. I can worry about everything else if I go missing for a few days. With that, I had him decide if he wanted to stand or sit. We obviously sat down since he didn't want me to hold him. And I also didn't want to hold him beyond the obvious that he was another buff dude. No, we had just got done bludgeoning each other half to death and drawing blood any chance we got. So not only was he smelly, but he was also bloody and hairy. With our palms touching, it was time to get this party started. Alright, I'm going to extend my aura, and you're going to feel a tingle. Ignore that. Focus your mind on what you lost. And I will focus on the same thing. I told him as he grumbled. With my aura extended around us, I focused on myself. We didn't need to time travel. That's a one way to mess shit up. No, what we needed was a view of his ordeal before he lost his memories. So if it can allow time travel, it should allow just a showing. Clearing my mind, the construct of what I wanted came forth, forming into a mirror hanging in the air. That wasn't enough, though I wanted more. Pushing more power into the Logan, the time viewing construct got larger. Logan, it's working. Open your eyes, take a look. With that, his eyes snapped open, desperate for answers. On the time mirror was a wide expansion of forest overlooking a lake that leads into a dam. One massive dam, and I knew just where this was. Alkali Lake, I whispered, and that shook him out of his stupor. I know that place, it's where I got these. I remembered that. He spoke softly, then the scene shifted. In the mirror now was someone I was hoping I would never see in this lifetime. Stryker. Logan growled out. Well damn, no love lost even in this universe, I guess. With that though, I'm guessing it's going to get a whole lot easier to just wipe this base off the map. James, focus. We need more so we can go here and search it for answers. James? Who's James? Logan asked me, looking confused. Your name's James Howlett. I got that the same way we got the location for this place we are viewing. I spoke to him, hiding the fact I already knew his actual name. That was also when the mirror changed. We watched Logan in Japan, and then in the Vietnam War, then World War II next to Captain America himself. And it kept on going as far back as World War I and beyond. Dude, you're freaking old, do you know that? Then it came to a boy running away from a farm. Logan reached his hands out to touch the mirror. I was far too caught up in actually seeing Logan's origins before my very eyes to understand what he was doing was a massive no. Right as his hand touches the mirror, we were both hits with a massive dose of backlash energy that floored us. The hell, man, why? The only answer I got in reply was a growl from the man. Then we were both back up on our feet. I am going to Alkali Lake. You coming or staying? I couldn't believe he actually asked for my opinion. I'm down to ride, but first we need to figure out where we are going. It's under the lake. We can get in through the dam. Logan spoke up while he strolled out the danger room. I was already next to him. So I am guessing you remembered that bit. But did you remember where it is exactly, or the lake and dam for that matter? When I asked him that question, he paused. Growling, he growled. Of course, he growled. I was betting Logan was going to rely on his sense of smell to get back there, but he wanted to be there now, so I had a quick fix for that. Alfred, have you located this lake and dam yet? I asked out to the sky because I knew Alfred kept track of me always. Yes, according to records the dam is located across the Canadian border, north 56 miles due east by 12 miles, came Alfred's instant reply. I was ready to go after a shower and notifying my mom that I was making a trip with Mr. Logan. I was easily able to get him to comply because I was the only GPS that would work. All the rest just mysteriously stopped working. Again Alfred for the win, even if he was a traitor when my mother was involved. Alfred asked me to tag along, so I went home to him up and bringing him with us. While Logan was busy getting ready, I ran home for Alfred, but got sidetracked eating. Then it was time to get my game face on. When I got back to the X-Mansion, Aurora was talking to Logan as he rolled his bike out of the garage. But one look at me, she huffed and went back inside. That caused Logan to chuckle at my amused face, because I honestly don't remember offending her. Life was far too complicated as it was without her throwing in her own anger at me. That's okay though, I was trying to do and be better, so I will have to figure out a way to help mend the situation between us. I wasn't even going to figure that out right now. Logan had a quest to fulfill, and I was totally down for smashing up Stryker's base of operations. Knowing him, this would just be one of many, but I will take this as a start. It was time for a road trip. The fastest man alive making moves before we had even taken off for the dam across the Canadian border. Logan had taken me aside. Look kid, I'm the Wolverine. I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do best isn't very nice. And this isn't a situation like the last time. That other time you were in a rage when you took down that base. This time you're sober, and you might have to kill a man in cold blood. I am not going to tell you not to come, but you need to understand this isn't like that. That brought me up short because as much as I was super hyped going on an adventure with Logan. Yeah, finding another base like the one I was trapped in was not something I was looking forward to experiencing. Killing outside of anger wasn't something I was looking forward to because even though I had no regrets about what I did in the heat of the moment, this situation was going to test my resolve. I was still thinking about the inclination of my choices on the matter when Logan had taken off on his Harley. I stuffed those thoughts to the back of my mind, and I took off right next to him. Unfortunately, I didn't have my license yet, but that was okay, I had far too much energy to burn. So riding in that little sidecar, Logan pulled out wasn't going to happen today. Since my body was slowly giving up sleep for the Speed Force, I was using my time to design new tech. Alfred was currently in a new body he had made for himself, and he was in his backpack form. This body had my new and improved microprocessor chips and a few miniature railgun designs I was tinkering on. The miniature railguns were sending out buckshot at Mach 7 in a quad-barrel setup, which allowed us to cheat using shotgun shells in an emergency. The pack was powered with a spark of my lightning since I learned that I could infuse power into batteries as long as the frequency was in sync and that they will last extremely long. I wanted to extract some of the Speed Force down into a particle, but the tools were not available to me yet. Also, I didn't want to fall back and rely on Tony's arc reactor to be the particle housing. The speed particle was going to be my secret ingredient in powering a lot of my technology. With Alfred secure on my back, I was running alongside Logan on our way to get him some answers. We crossed the Canadian border late at noon. We had no issues, which was strange really, but I had no complaints about it. We were currently 2 miles out from the dam Alfred had marked on the map. It wasn't a hard trek through the forest, since there were clear animal trails to use and ever so often Logan was pointing out soldier routes to me. This location was supposed to be some hidden base, so that was no surprise to me since it would be unusual for no one to send out patrols. Logan was noticing things that a city kid like myself had no clue about. That made it a very worthwhile learning experience for me. We soon came upon Alkali Lake, and it was massive. The first X-Men movie did this lake no justice at all, and somewhere in the gigantic dam is the information for Logan and the formula for adamantium, also known as one of the most durable metals known in the universe. We trekked up along the coast of the lake while weaving between the tree to keep out of the line of sight from the dam. We got to about a football field length away from the dam when everything went to crap. Whomp, 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 whomp. Overhead came a helicopter heading for the dam, and it looked like an old Huey transport chopper with an extended cargo bay. The helo was camo green and had blacked out windows. Logan and I watched it land on top of the dam, and soldiers popped out of the back pushing what appeared to me prisoners forward. The soldiers were marching them forward when someone had tripped. From my location, I couldn't see if it was a boy or a girl, but I did notice the soldiers waving around guns. Then there was a red beam that blasted out of the person on the floor. I knew that red beam. I have seen those beams in movies before. Those beams were so iconic it was up there with Logan's claws and Captain America's shield. My heart was racing, and I felt like I was going to hyperventilate right here on the spot. Bap. 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 That was when I heard the gun blast, and my heart stopped. There was no way that. Did that happen? I didn't even pay any more attention to Logan. I was up the wall and there among everyone within a split second. And it was who I thought it was. Scott Summers, the iconic leader of the X-Men and wannabe Magneto's second coming. He was dead on the ground with 3 shots to the chest. The Boy Scout snuffed out just like that, no chance to fight back. No escape, just a triple tap to the chest and boom, dead. This right here is why this universe scares the crap out of me. You don't know what will happen. Then I felt it, that cold shiver was moving its way up my spine. That feeling of your death looming at you back. That feeling of lack of control was back again, and I was terrified. Freeze, don't move. You didn't have to shoot him, man, he only fell. What the hell? Who are you? With my appearance, everything kicked off all at once. With the death of such an iconic person, I now knew that I had no such thing as plot armor in this life. A promise was made to myself when I realized what universe I was in. I promised myself that I would make a change, make a difference. I would become a beacon for everyone in the future. But what did I do? All this power, and what have I been doing with it? Nothing but let it all go to my head. I wasn't angry now, no. Now I was focused, and this base was finished. The guards still had their guns on me when I looked up to meet their gazes. My face must have looked dreadful because they all flinched from the look I gave them. I heard the sound of one of the triggers clicking, and that was my signal to begin. With my motions flowing like water, my claw constructs came out. Then I began to eviscerate every guard present on the top helipad. There was no escaping me. A soldier tried to jump off in an escape attempt, but with force-constructed hand he was brought back directly onto my claws. The helicopter was spinning up his rotors to get away, but it was already too late. I was now carrying a fistful of lightning, and the plane was about to feast on it. Boom! The helo was no more, and now it was time to dismantle the base. My choice was made. If you don't stop the bad guys, they will keep on being bastards. Alfred hopped off my back to look at the new people I had just rescued, but they weren't important right now. Right now, I had to inform Logan about the change of plans. Wolverine. Come in, Wolverine. What happened, kid? Why did you vanish? Things happened, so we have to be flexible now. I have metas on the top helipad. I need you to guard them while I go destroy the base. I wanted answers, and this was supposed to be a simple smash and grab, kid. Logan was now growling at me. Wolverine. This wasn't going to be some ordinary base. My answer though got me a snort in return. Top right. Well, come get me, and don't forget to get what you can about me after you're finished rampaging. Before he was able to hang up the comms, I was already down the side and bringing him back up to where all the metahumans were stationed. With my sudden disappearance and reappearance, everyone jumped. Some guy even asked me if I was a teleporter. I was going to liberate everyone held captive in the base, then I was going to bring them back to the X-Mansion. I would have to build a meta-human research and development department within the company soon. I wonder if I can get Aurora to do the counselor job. I do have to admit to myself that I don't want Charles with such a position. Alfred, go through the ducts and get to the server room. Shut down any self-destructs and download everything. I want all their files about experiments and all the tech they have cooked up. Also, funnel all their money into our accounts after you clean it. With Alfred knowing what he needed to get done, I was already down through the door into a hallway filled with guards armed to the teeth heading upstairs to the burning helo wreck. I hope you guys wore your brown pants. With that, I brought out my 6 arms construct, then proceeded to tear into them. Psylocke, hot badass mercenary for hire. Spiral was laid back with her legs kicked up on a desk while she filed her nails and painted the others. Her day was boring as could be, and she hated to take jobs like these. Damn mutant hunters. Yes, they pay well, but their treatment of her kind still made her skin crawl. Though the unique toys she gets to play with aren't all bad either, and as much ammo as she can carry and specially made toys to order. Nothing can beat that one bit. Well, maybe a muscled hunk tied to her bedpost might come in a close second, but a lady will have to make do. She was regretting taking this job. Not only was the base's lead operations manager a greasy shit face, but they had a crap base stuck in the middle of nowhere. Now she was stuck in the security room babysitting the cameras. but she would have to mark today as her lucky day on her calendar. She scoffed at the guards that lost control of the mutant guy and then watched his powers blast out, almost wrecking everything. Ugh, now she had to do work. With her index finger and middle finger against her forehead, she concentrated and felt within the astral for the mind within her vicinity for turmoil. Within the milky stream of nothing, she felt the ripple, but she also felt a raging tide of power approach. It was easily the most power she has ever felt being projected from one person. This she would have to investigate carefully. Maybe it was time she went for a stroll along the lake and find this little morsel for herself. She shut down the mind of the person that was causing problems. But when she got up to leave to find that source of power, she noticed a flicker on the screen. He wore a dark red suit with lightning moving up and down its sides. On his chest, he wore a bolt of lightning as his symbol. She knew that symbol, something about some fast hero out of New York. She watched as he stood there over the dead body of the mutant, and when he raised his head up, she saw the savage visage of an Oni coming to reap them all. She felt the cold press of a blade against her throat with just a glance at his face. Then he moved, or better yet he vanished from his spot. Every person on the outer helipad suddenly lost their heads, and then he sent a bolt of pure power destroying the air support. That was all she needed to see to know it was time to leave. She was already paid, and they didn't have all the money in the world for her to stay and fight a speedster willing to kill. She called up all the guards for intruders and opened all the cages to help cover her escape. This base was going to be destroyed, and she was not sticking around to fight. There was one way out now, and she was going to kill anyone that was in her path to escape. Moving like flowing water, none of the guards could stop me. Every guard that appeared within my sight got reaped. I had created 2 extra arms to throw out ninja stars I was constructing on the move. Any person outside of my reach that wasn't in my way found a star sticking out of their throat. Each ninja star had a 1-inch circle with 4-inch curved spikes sticking out along the outer ring. I was creating them and sending them as they were being created. I kept my internal timer on each so that they would disappear after a solid 3 minutes. This would leave the wounds open for them to either bleed out or make it in time to save themselves. And they should thank their lucky stars. I don't plan to follow up to make sure they are dead. Alfred had made it to the server rooms and was able to update my map with the new information he was pulling from the servers. This base was 15 floors easy. Damn, it was huge, and I was located somewhere on the 4th floor. What I wanted to do was go through the labs and then the cells where they would be keeping all the metahumans. While strolling through my wrist computer, I found the labs, but the following information was not something that gave me the warm fuzzies. Alright, Alfred, I am going to see what these mad scientists have cooked up. Keep me posted for any developments. Of course, also, would you like me to make a move on the Baxter Foundation? Some investors have been pulling out due to failed experiments. Alfred asked me, which in turn made me super happy because at least part of my plans weren't screwed up. Yeah, buy up as much as you can. We need at least 65% so we can have controlling rights. Also, having the contract, we won't make any changes unless the labs blow up. I knew the lab hadn't had any explosions yet, but something caused the dimensional traveler to explode and give them powers. It was time to make my move while they are desperate. I needed the name and their industry to break in with recognition. Also, let Susan know that if we do make changes, the building name will remain unchanged. That should allow her to be more receptive since her father did build the Baxter building. There is no need to change the name. Will do. Ben, beware, someone opened the cells holding the lab experiments. I worked my way down the sublevel systematically until I was able to make it to the labs. Though I wished I hadn't, because man was it gruesome. The operation lab still had a person laid on top and open with their insides still showing for everyone to see. The scientist that was working on him jumped once I kicked in the door and raised her hands in surrender. Too bad for her because I was all out of craps to give today. This base was going, and everyone I can get to will be entombed here with it. With a flick of the wrist on one of my hands, a ninja star found its way into her jugular vein. Moving past her garbling body on the floor, I checked the patient on the lab table only to see them alive, but they were extremely dosed up on some concoction keeping them alive during the procedure. I wasn't even sure if they were aware, but this was no way someone should ever have to suffer. With a heavy heart, I gave them peace. This pained me more than knowing I was wiping out a whole base of people. No one should ever have to die this way or experience something like that. The prisoners were gathering, gawking at me like I was some nightmare, but that's fine for now. I needed them compliant and following orders. Nothing else mattered at the moment, just getting them out. Move up this way and follow the trail of bodies out. You will find a grumpy guy up top. The rescue will be here soon. And with that, I was moving again. I felt tremors through the floor, so there had to be something big on the floor below me. On the 10th floor was a massive monster Hulk size. And damn, he was ugly. His skin was gray, the hair on his head was in patches and matted. And he was rampaging all across the lab, which had what I wanted, crap. He was throwing around the guards who were trying to put him down good. He was located on the left side with a massive cage, and on the right side was the tank with the holy grail of material. The tank contained a bubbling dark silver metallic substance that could only be adamantium. This trip was going to pay off more than I thought it was. The tank was connected to a significant number of wires leading to all over the lab. Hell, the bottom didn't even look like it was connected to any flame, so how were they also keeping it in a melted state? Since I located one of the ultimate metals, it was time to take down the big bad. With all 6 arms extended, I went right for his jugular at high speeds. With a quick swipe, all of my claws went right through the side of his neck, almost taking it clean off his body. With him taken care of, I used his body as a springboard and went for the rest of the guards' frozen firing positions with the rounds still floating in the air after being fired out of the rifles. With all the bads taken care of, it was time to check on the prisoners. Metahumans were ranging from small kids to full-blown adults. Unfortunately, there was nothing I could do about the situation but save who I can. Giving them the same informational speech like I did the others, it was time to move on to the next floor. Life had far more in store for me than just strolling along like it was a picnic. The hulking brute I had put down stood back up, and only light scars were located on his neck where I struck with my claws. Damn it, he had Logan's healing factor. I was going to get settled in for a long fight, but I knew better than to fight people like myself and Logan. Today I would have to make some sacrifices, and it was time to test out a new move. Taking off at high speeds before the brute was even able to register what was happening around him, I took the monster from behind with all 6 arms. With my hands embedded into his back, I used the 4 arms made from speed force constructs to spread my aura into his body. Then I pulled in reverse and sucked in all his molecular motion and kinetic energy. It tasted nasty, like fermented toe jam on a hot sunny day, and damn me, I had no idea where that came from. The taste almost blacked me out from how foul it tasted to my body. If I knew that the energy came with their own taste, I would have shoved his head into the adamantium soup instead of tasting this crap. Ugh, good God, I can taste it in my mouth. Still, it was so bad I started to see spots, and I wanted to stop absorbing his molecular energy altogether. He not only looked foul, but his energy tasted filthy also. I was on the brink of vomiting when I finally absorbed everything. The brute stood there like an ice sculpture once I was finished, but there was no way I was going to leave him like that. A hurr gag. With a savage roar, I ripped my arms outwards, shattering his body into smaller ice chunks. Ugh, this whole encounter was just nasty to the extreme. My stomach was upset, and my legs felt wobbly. Ben, someone just opened the lower bay hatches into the underground docks for the escape sub. Also, I have purged all data from the systems, came Alfred's smooth British voice, calming me back down from my nightmarish ordeal. Thanks, Alfred, I am on it. Also, did Logan place a call to Wheels? While still trying to keep my lunch down. Yes, after he has had several encounters with the remaining guards, he made the call for a pickup. Thanks, Alfred, I will meet you topside once I check the lower hangar bay. Do set the self-destruct for remote detonation and upload a Big Red Button app to my Halo Tech phone. You want a Big Red Button application on the most state-of-the-art cell phone? Yep, I plan to press the Big Red Button. Just get it done, Alfred. It was already completed between the words my and Halo Tech. Thanks, Alfred, I will meet you topside to go over what you gained from the servers, but as a precaution, please make sure we have the adamantium formula. I would hate to leave behind what they currently have here in the labs without a way to reproduce our own. With that, I took off towards the lower bay docks. While I was en route, I noticed bodies sliced up like they decided to jump into a blender. The bodies had blade marks all over, and a few had impaled marks right where the heart was. Interesting, it seems like someone is trying to get out, but who could it be and how could they know about some escape sub? I came smashing through the bay doors and what I found was not what I was expecting. What I found was one irresistible ninja Viking-looking lady going to town on the guard station to guard the mini one-person submersible. She was tall for a lady, making her easily 6 feet. She had on a pair of tight leather pants, showing off those deadly curves of hers. The pants even had spikes down the side, and she had a matching black shirt with 2 large X's on the front. Her hair was long and flowing dark locks with purple mixed in. What really struck me was the massive sword she was wielding while chopping the guards in half. As the gentleman that I was, it was time to help a lady in need. Putting away my crazy 6-arm construct, I started to take out the guards in her surroundings. Now that I was closer, she reminded me of a badass ninja version of Olivia Munn. Slowing down back to sync up with the standard time, it was time to get answers. So do you mind telling me who I just rescued? I am no damsel in distress, so get your facts straight. She returned with a savage grin while strapping her massive sword to her back to free her hands up to reload both her pistols at her side. She eyed me, so I was trying to keep a respectable distance to make sure I didn't fall into some classic cliché honey trap. So why are you running? I had to keep asking questions. Otherwise, I was going to get distracted by her bust and the fantastic things that tight shirt was doing to it. We slowly started to circle while trading barbs, but I couldn't help but feel like something was up. As my back turned to face the mini-sub, she made her move. With a hand motion, I was pulled towards her, and I finally figured out why I felt something was up. This was Psylocke, one of the very few women in Marvel that uses a sword and telekinetic powers. Crap, I fell into this one. Alright, her MO has always been mercenary work. So it wouldn't be a far stretch for her to be here, but I didn't know she worked for metahuman snatchers. She reached for the sword on her back to swing it at me while I was in midair, but I had something for her, alright. My constructs burst out, grabbing onto her elbow and blade. With a swift movement, I swung her around and slammed her onto the ground beneath me. Well, that's not nice. I know being hot and crazy goes hand in hand, but let's please be civilized. Jail stripes aren't my style. And with that, she hit me with a telekinetic blast, but since I still had a hold on her, we flipped and rolled a few times across the ground. She landed on top of me, and I was ready to flip us back over to take back control when she kissed me. It was like pure electricity sparked through my being. I couldn't help but to give into the kiss some more as our tongues dueled. I was able to get a grip on her amazingly nice firm ass. That was when everything started to get dark, and I began to lose feeling in my extremities. Night lipstick cost a fortune, but well worth it. No worries, you'll only sleep for a few hours, enjoy. And with that, She-Cat walked over to the mini-sub and left. I was beyond furious with myself. I was able to avoid the other bullcrap, but I fell for the Catwoman move. I was burning through whatever she gave me like I was a man possessed. I was back up within a matter of 60 seconds, but she was already gone. With a roar, I savagely unleashed all of my lightning on my immediate surroundings. I was played, that was what happened. I was simply played, and she got away. With a huff, I ran back up the top to meet Logan and the rest of the people we saved. Sniff. Sniff. Why am I smelling mint? Logan asked while looking around for the source of the smell. He zeroed in on me, but I could only shrug, but Alfred decided to add his 2 cents in. I believe that was due to his swapping of fluids with the escaping mercenary. Came Alfred's smooth voice from his location playing with the kids. Logan smiled at me like he already knew what happened. I guess he did, since I looked like I was rolling on the ground. So did you grab on with both palms at least? The Fastest Man Alive Making Moves Part 2. Ignoring Logan and Alfred's bullcrap, I went back into the base. I need to do something with the liquid adamantium that was still bubbling down below. I was browsing through all the tech that was received from the servers, and it was all looking like this was going to be a success. Unfortunately, Stryker was off the grid even to his black operations. This situation did not give me the warm fuzzies, because I wanted him ended. With his death, a lot more metahumans will be safe from his sick ministrations. Alfred start breaking into everything, and I want Stryker's location. Of course, sir. Would you also like me to drain his funds once he is found? Came Alfred's smooth voice, and this was interesting. You know what? Yeah, let's take him for everything once we locate him. Yeah, I didn't just want him dead, I was going to take him for everything. I was now in the base's armory, and they had what I hoped was here. A Japanese katana. I wished it was a Roman gladius, but looters can't be picky once they have liberated said loot. With the sword in hand, my next destination was the lab with the ultimate metal still within its liquid state. There were enough guns back at my base, and they had no exciting DNA samples here in this lab, so it was all just garbage to me. I found the liquidized adamantium right where I left it, on the right of the lab with frozen Medichek laying right next to it. No, the next issue would be how to get a monomolecular edge onto this blade. Though that answer was easy, layer a monolayer sharp blade extension of my Speed Force aura. Placing the katana in the liquid metal pit, compress the metal onto the blade and compress the edge into a sharp mono edge, then brought it back out while holding the form. That was when Logan's gravely voice came in over the comms. "Kid, we have incoming company, get your butt back up here." Logan didn't sound too happy, which means this company was going to be trouble. With my own growl, I was already heading back topside with my sword in hand. Unfortunately, whoever decided to show up today was going to get wrecked. When I got up top, I didn't see anyone, but one look at Logan let me know he smelled them way before they could even be seen. Just with his lookout over above the trees, I knew what was up. Magneto was about to show himself again, all right. Swoosh. In came Magneto flying from over the trees. This time it was him, Mystique, Toad, and some other person who I had no clue about. That was fine, though he brought his surrogate child and the blue goddess herself. Eric was flying on his flat metal disc and was in his iconic helm, which was all fine and dandy, but I still don't get why was he here at this particular base. I would have to ask, since I will have to make notes about this for the future. I can't keep having them show up whenever I do anything significant, otherwise everyone watching is going to start pairing me with them during memos and debriefings. That would be a major no-go for me, with my plans slated to be accomplished soon. Everyone was looking in their directions while pointing, wondering who were those people. As soon as Magneto and his crew landed, he started his big speech and Mystique made a beeline straight to my location. I could only sigh and place my sword on my back, since it wouldn't do to have my sword out while talking to a lady. "So we meet again. We do have to stop meeting this way, Benjamin," came her smooth, sultry voice. I was not having any of this shit right now, though. With that bullcrap, Psylocke pulled on me in the sublevels. Any and all flirting was on shutdown. It happens when people track my locations. I spoke, trying to keep my anger about the tracking and the trick I suffered down below under control. Though I guess it leaked out some in my voice because she had a raised eyebrow. "Don't mind the kid, he got honey trapped down below, and she got away," came Logan's gruff voice. I could only sigh again, and I realized I have been doing that a lot lately. "Raven, honestly, it's not you. It's just the situation, okay, so sorry, no offense. I am guessing that I spiked on that tracker of your radar again? And that's why you're here. Yes, your power signature is very distinct. So we decided to come to take a look," she replied, while shrugging away my apologies. "That was fine with me, as long as I didn't step on any toes today. I can be happy. So you're just here to take a look at what made me show so much power?" I couldn't help but ask with a skeptical tone in my voice. "Well, why not? If you're having a good time, you should share." With that statement from her, Logan snorted and walked away from us. I knew she was hot and was trying to tempt me to the dark side. "Sorry, but I will have to hold on to no sharing when it comes to having a good time." "Well, can't you change that rule for little ol' me? I guarantee I can show you things that you couldn't even dream of." She was speaking in a voice that sounded so sweet to my ears, but I had to stay strong from the dark side. I could only sigh again. "Raven, honestly, this can't work. You're labeled as a terrorist, and Lightspeed the hero cannot be seen with a terrorist. I am putting in a lot of work to get us recognition, and I can't jeopardize that right now. This truce I have with the city is fragile, and when I launch my company with its metahuman department, I am going to need the goodwill that I have earned to make major movements." This brought her up short. "That's why you have been seen on the news running around saving people. Why? It's one drawn-out and complicated plan. I can't give you the minor details, but yes, I have a goal with my hero plan to help metahumankind, and it starts with the city that has its hand on the pulse of the world." Her playfulness was instantly gone, and what was now in its place was one determined look demanding inclusion, but I felt terrible because she couldn't be included. "I want in, and I can infiltrate this base for you." Mystique had one severe look on her face, and I had no right way out of this other than to shut her down. I could only scratch the back of my head while looking around. What I saw was Logan speaking to people while shaking his head. Alfred was still playing with kids, doing tricks and opening and closing event. "I can't include you because of your terrorist status. I can figure something out in the future with some time, but not right now. Then take me with you when you plan to demolish your next base," she stated, keeping her voice and face serious. "I can't, Raven. They have cameras that are everywhere. Yes, I am going to go smash up some bases after this, but I can't bring you. I currently have all the footage of this current encounter being scrubbed, but someone can always set up a trap to take video and picture of the crew I'm rolling with." I had to lay it all out that this was not going to happen. Mystique was not pleased, and her body shimmered a little bit through skin tones and various suits. Yeah, she was extremely angry with me shutting her down. And what about this way you have to eliminate my criminal status? She asked with a raised eyebrow. It's in flux, and I can't use the current leverage I have for the moment. I thought about all the ways I can milk Fury now that I knew how to get direct access to the man. I could no longer let him get shot by the Winter Soldier. Unfortunately, that was lucky for him and unlucky for me because I had to figure out another way to get Bucky out of his cryo tank. That would have gotten him onto the board game, allowing me to snatch up one of Hydra's pawns, which would give me Captain America's loyalty for reuniting him with his long-lost friend. More plans ruined with finding out he was family. Once you stop hanging out with Magneto, then I can figure something out. No, I'm not asking you to betray the man. Keep whatever you know to you. Just show the world you're trying to find another way to accomplish coexistence. They will never accept me. Her voice was so low I almost couldn't hear her. You never know till you try, but I can't bring you to go smash bases. I was honestly trying not to be harsh. I understood all Mystique wanted to do was help metahumankind, but she was just dealt a crap hand after hand. All it takes is a leap of faith. That's what I did when I started to go out and save the day. I didn't know where I was going with it, but I had a goal, and I had to start somewhere. Figure out what you want to do, and I will figure out how to get your slate cleaned. And with one final look at me, she walked away back towards Magneto's side. I couldn't help but sigh again because damn, that ass was divine. Although I had my fill of honey traps for one day and I was not about to attempt seducing the hot blue lady, then end up being seduced myself and losing everything except my shirt and undies. Mystique and Magneto took off into the air while Logan and I watched them go. Logan was able to talk a few of the rescued survivors to come with us back to the school. I honestly didn't believe he even had it in him. Kid, that's one dangerous game you're playing. Be careful you don't get burned. Now show me what you got out of that base. Logan spoke coming up next to me while the group of 8 that stayed behind followed him over. Alfred, come over here and show me the files. With that, he scuttled his body over opening the hatch on his back, showing my hologram modules to bring up the files on Logan and the Weapons X program. While browsing through the files, though a few things did stand out to me. Most, if not all the data was redacted, and that was pissing off Logan even more, but I did notice a few nuggets of gold. There were 4 more bases, but the one I had to smash next was located in the mountains of San Francisco. This was the base housing subject X-23. It also noted that she was the only survivor out of a batch of 26 other children. That was just crazy, and they sacrificed 26 other kids to get to her. She would need rescue ASAP, and the doctor who was noted to have given birth to her, which they have indicated might be the only reason why she has not been deemed a failed experiment. Logan, I have to go do this. Alfred is going to send all the data he has on you to Dr. McCoy back at the mansion. Where are you heading, kid? He asked me while tilting his head to the side. How do I tell him he had a daughter, and that they killed 26 other kids he will never be able to see ever? Honestly, Logan, I have no clue how to tell you what I am about to do or what I figured out. Kid, just spit it out already. At this point, Logan was already growling at me again. With a deep breath, I told him about his daughter that survived and the kids that didn't make it all made from his DNA. The devastating look that came over his face was heart-shattering. Snicked. With his claws extended, Logan went to work on the door and wall of the stairwell that leads back into the base. I could only take a step back and let Logan vent his anger since it was better there than on me. Where are they and when do we rescue her? He growled out at me after he was finished brutalizing the wall and door to shreds. Now I was stuck. How will I break the news I didn't want him on this mission with me? Logan, the X-Jet can't get to California faster than they can evacuate the base. I'm the only one that can get there in time before they think of termination of their experiments. I had to say the last part with quotations marks because of the sensitive nature of the situation. She is not an experiment, and she is no one's property. Logan was back to growling again, but what he said next surprised and terrified me all at the same time. Kid, go save them before something happens. And if you fail, I will hunt you for the rest of your days. I was already gone while Logan was in mid-threat. There was no way I was going to leave X-23 in their hands. Laura Kinney Howlett/X-23. Super miniature badass Laura was frustrated and tired. She had just survived another 18-hour day filled with training and minimal rest and food. The designated trainers today were brutal. She was hit 23 times with their electric batons before Laura was able to disable them in their armor. Even though she won, they still revoked half of her lunch. Her mother had told her to be a useful asset so that she wasn't deemed a failure and terminated. So she excelled at every task they gave her. She killed every target that was placed before her. None of her assassinations were failures, and she was the best. They reduced her food and kept her under their thumb. The only respite, she was talking with her mother and letting her know she was effective, and she would be her most significant work. This night was turning into a restless one, and she felt as if something was different and she couldn't put her finger on it, but she felt it. This was like the feeling she had before she was shot in her chest with a shotgun, like her instincts were screaming of danger approaching. She wanted to ignore it and get as much rest as she could before her next training session or mission was made available, but her instincts would not let her rest. Being unable to sleep and rolling over in bed was when it happened. The base's alarm sounded, and a guard busted down her door. Her instincts screamed for her to fight. This was going to be her chance. Her mother had spoken briefly about plans for their escape sometimes. Though they never had an opportunity, this would be theirs. Snicked. Fry. With a roar of defiance, she was on the guard going for his jugular vein. This chance was for her and her mother, and she was going to take it. Benjamin Blake / superfast semi-functional moron / genius / heroish. It took me a whole 5 minutes to make it back from Canada to California and into the San Francisco mountains to the GPS coordinates that Alfred had loaded onto my holophone located on my wrist. When I had arrived on location, it was pure pandemonium. Guards were running everywhere, and helicopters were taking off ferrying people away. It looks like they got the memo that the other base was destroyed. That's fine with me though if they make it out. They make it out. I was here for the girl and her mom if they haven't caused her death like in the comics. I refuse to let that whole trigger pheromone thing happen in this lifetime. While I was taking in the scenery of the base, taking notes on approaches and exits in and out of the base, I heard gunshots fired. That wasn't my doing, and I had to investigate the situation. Alfred, when we get on site, I plan to drop you off next to the nearest vent, make it to the servers and drain them dry. Yes, access to their servers will also help me narrow down the search for Stryker. Currently, I have a satellite over the Mediterranean Sea scanning for his island. Oh yeah, that was music to my ears. Maybe I should take Logan and Laura with me. This could be an excellent father-daughter bonding experience. I could only snort at my thought of that. What are they going to do, bond over ripping his guts out? Yeah, they just might, and that's the weird part of Logan's DNA at work. Dropping Alfred off next to the nearest vent, it was time to figure out where and why all the shots were fired. Maximum effort. With Deadpool's war cry, I was in the base and working my way down the stairs. Everyone I came across kissed my sword. Even if I was here for rescue, there was no way I was going to let everyone go, even if I did let the helicopters go. Though what I found on subsection 6 was a work of art in itself. Arms, legs, and heads were everywhere you looked. It was like she was taking out all of her frustrations on the base, which might be true in her case. Slowing back down so I could get in touch with Alfred, I needed to find her fast because Logan should have already been picked up by the professor since that last base hasn't been blown up yet. I wanted to press the big red button and know that they all went boom. I had a savage grin on my face while seeing my map update and the big red button glowing in the corner of the map. The map showed Laura on one of the lower levels defending an Asian lady behind her carrying a case. It looks like I was in time for the rescue, but they were already trying to make their own escape attempts. Then again, with all those guns facing them, it doesn't look like she will be able to save her mom. I was already on the move and was there in the next second, taking off the guards' heads with clean swipes of my katana. Though when I got there, Laura already had her claws out and in one of the guards' face. Laura stood at a solid 5 feet, even with Asian American features. She was small, cute, and extremely deadly. Yeah, she was cute, but I already had my own bucket of issues to tangle with without adding one of Logan's progenies into the mix. Slowing back down to a reasonable time to get a status update on their situation, since I already had plans to destroy this base. Yet, once I did slow down, though they both jumped, Laura though jumped right at me with her foot claw extended. Yeah, she was Logan's kid alright. She didn't run away, she got angry and wanted blood. Just for a little old jump scare, but I guess that was on me. We are in an active combat zone. Now that she was in slow motion mid-lunge towards me, I had to make a solid choice here. Do I, A, fry her with my lightning and take her out of here over my shoulder? I would have to watch her mother while trying to care for her and protect them both. B, or try and reason with a mini stabbing machine and have help demolishing the base. moving next to her while staying out of the way of her foot claw because of course, she would have foot claws. It's not like already having massive metal claws that can cut through anything wasn't already bad enough. With a small push towards her mother direction, I went with reason. Look, I'm only here to rescue you and your mother. Your dad is going to gut me daily if I don't get you out of here in one piece, which is crazy since you can heal just like he can. So help a brother out please and just come without a fight. And of course, she lunged right back at me. I should have known since that's how Logan reacts when we fight. Only putting him down hard will snap him out of his kill happy mode. Sidestepping her again at high speeds to be sure I was outpacing her reflexes, I went for the nape of her neck and lit her up with my lightning. While I had her incapacitated, I sent the doc a quick zap to get her out of her stunned state. Look doc, I am here for rescue, not to capture and kidnap. If you're understanding, tell little knife here to stand down. Bless her heart, Dr. Kenny sobered up quickly and rushed to Laura's side, almost knocking me away. But I wasn't going to let go of the little stab-happy teenager yet. Doc, I need her to calm down, help is coming. But I don't want claw marks on my ass. Enough, young man, I will talk to her, so remove your hands from her now. This lady had far too much balls for her own good. Taking her word, I tossed the little stabby teen aside, making sure I was well out of her reach. Turns out that was the best thing I could do because she recovered immediately and automatically took a swing in my direction. I swung my sword, clashing with her claws, pushing her further away from me. Stop, Luara, stop. Listen to his heart, or smell him, tell me he is telling the truth. Doc, I don't think she can even hear my heart. It beats far too fast to tell the difference. True, but I can smell the difference between the hormones your body is secreting, and am not going to gut you for now. And what is this about me having a dad? Laura was as brash and abrasive as her old man. You might know him as Weapon X. We discovered a base, and then we discovered more stuff, so now I'm here and he's probably halfway here by now. And just like that my comms came alive and Alfred's smooth voice came out. The servers are drained, and the big red button has been updated to include this base. Steiker's Island has also been found. He is currently enjoying a barbecue with his family and guests. Well, that had to be something. But I could tell the way Laura flinched from when Alfred mentioned his name that she was well aware of who he is. What will you do once you find him? She decided to ask me while we checked corners, running in the direction to the top of the base. Simple, drain him of his resources and then end him and those with him. He is far too dangerous to leave alive. Laura was staring at me with those large eyes of hers. If she weren't so cute, she would be deadly intimidating. Look here, little stabby, if you want to come, just ask. I was trying not to get stabbed by the little Wolverine when her mother spoke up. These are the dynamic social skills they neglected in your training. Use your words, Laura. You are a person, not an animal. Unfortunately, that was when some guards came out of the door on Laura's left side. They didn't even make it past half a step out the door. The first guards got her hand claws to the face, and the one behind got sliced from groin to chin with her foot claw while she was in mid-flip. Crap, this girl was far worse than Logan. Nothing but a mini ball of cute death and rage. I am going with you, and I will take his head from his shoulders. There was nothing I could say to refute that fact. The look on her face spoke of unsaid pain coming in my direction if I refused. It had nothing to do with the blood dripping from her claws or her face. Yep, that had nothing to do with it at all. Shrugging at her, I turn around to take out the guards coming down the hall on my side, trying to ignore the mad doctor wiping away the blood from Laura's face like she was a small child and not a mini death machine. Kid, you there? Hank got the plane outside, where are you? Logan came blaring in over my comms unit. I had no clue they would make it here so fast. Yeah, I found them. And Laura is just a chip off the old block. Stabby and grumpy just like you. I'm sure she is your kid. GRRR, I'm coming down, Hank dear. With that, his communications cut out. Great, now I had to deal with the big man and the little stabby. Laura and I made it our mission to take down any who stood in our way, and the exit, though we found Logan on the 3rd floor going to town on some massive guy throwing crates at him. The big guy had that gray cracked skin with muscles showing underneath. He was just the next level of grotesque, and when I was about to give Luara some orders, she jumped into the fight right alongside Logan. I couldn't help but facepalm. Couldn't you guys have given her more social skills besides fighting everything she meets? The doctor gave me on a harrowing look. I tried, but they kept me at bay, telling me weapons do not need such skills. She is my life's work. I refused to have her die because of some incompetence, so I tried to teach her what I could. Yeah, well, that you need to fix. And I pointed towards Laura jumping off Logan's back, plunging her claws into the big guy's face while Logan went for his knee and ankles. It was weird how they were already in so much sync with their actions. Laura ducked under Logan's swing as he took off the head of the guy behind her. While Logan was disemboweling the guy, she slid around his back and took off the guard's hands. Yeah, they were in some scary type of combat synchronization, and I wasn't about to put my body between them. With one last look towards the father-daughter bonding time, I picked up the Mad Doctor and ran her to the X-Jet that was up at the top waiting for us. Not surprisingly, everyone was in the X-Jet. The meta-human from the first rescue that called herself the Wall was guarding the jet with her constructs, keeping shots fired at the plane away. Storm was out in the sky blasting apart jeeps and other vehicles. Though the beast was still looking everyone over, the professor had his hand to his forehead, most likely telling Logan that we made it out and they should return. Ignoring them, I took a look at the people we saved from the last base. One of them I was able to recognize automatically. His massive, oversized wings gave him away instantly though. Somehow Angel had ended up in a base for meta-human experimentations, and that was not okay. I would have to put time aside to talk to him later. He would be a great addition to my team, and his wing feature would make his publicity a massive hit if used correctly. Though I had to ignore his presence at the moment for the arriving father and daughter. Laura went directly to the side of her mad scientist of a mother, and Logan just stood next to me looking at her. That wouldn't do. It was time to break the ice. Good job, team. How about high fives all around? Snicked. Snicked. They both popped their claws at me the same time, and then they growled at me. I guess they weren't expecting that because they both stopped and looked at each other. Great, they are getting along just fine now. I must stay out of the way of sharp pointy things. Thanks, kid. Logan spoke while going to find himself a seat, but while he was going by Laura, I think I saw them sniff each other in quick passing. Alfred had made it to the X-Jet, and we were already taking off when I called for a stop and hover. This caused the professor to look at me while raising his eyebrow in my direction. No worries, Professor, we have some unfinished business, and I am sure that the little ball of death over there would love to participate. That name caused Laura to grumble, and Logan growled in my direction. She's still touchy, I guess, but that will be fine. She is going to love what happens next. Bringing up the big red button, I held my arm out to her with the holophone displaying the app. Just press the button and claim your prize. The little ball of death grumbled to herself as she pressed the button. Boom. 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 Oh yeah, fireworks, baby. Now that my appetite for destruction was satisfied, I turned around to close the back hatch of the jet. Laura grabbed my forearm. What about Stryker? She asked me while keeping her eyes still on the destruction unfolding on the base from the self-destruct going off. His location is on his private island in the Mediterranean Sea. That's my next stop. I told her while bringing up the information that Alfred had sent to me from the servers. Stryker had 2 more bases to his name, but I was going to forgo them until after I removed his head from his body. Let's go now. I have seen you move, and I know you're faster than this plane. And what about your mother and your grumpy old man? Her grumpy old man here is right behind you. Logan had walked right back up to us while we were busy, watching the base explode. Though the professor looked none too happy, he didn't say anything, and Aurora was also listening in on the conversation. I need to take down Stryker right now before he catches wind of these and pulls a rabbit. He is the link and driving force, and we get rid of him. This whole thing falls apart. I spoke up to everyone present, since I wasn't going to get any alone time. Do you have any idea what you're talking about doing, Benjamin? What about being Lightspeed and the hero of New York? The professor asked me from his chair. That's being taken care of right now. Alfred is nixing all communications and any signal coming in and out of the base while also getting rid of any trails that mark us being here, Professor. This has to be fought on 2 fronts, and I know this now. I plan to take down as many of these bases as I can, while I can. I can't talk you out of your actions, can I, Benjamin? Asked the professor. No, you can't, but you can help the ones I rescue. With time, I plan to do a big world release and awareness. That you can help me with, Professor. When we go public to the world, we go public with a big bang. I spoke to him while turning back to the exit of the jet, but Laura still had a grip on me and wouldn't let go. Kid, take her with you. I know you can carry her, so don't give me that crap about weight. Logan's gruff voice spoke up next to the button to close the ramp bay door. Laura took one look at Logan, nodded, and then hopped onto my back. Be safe and come back in one piece. Spoke Aurora from her position next to Laura's mother. I honestly don't know how or why, but I am happy we were back to talking terms. You tell anyone, and I will gut you, Laura spoke, but I had no clue what she was talking about till her chest touched my back. Freaking bandage wraps, of course, she would wrap her chest. I sighed one more time because what's one more in a long day of bullcrap discoveries? Alfred was secured on her back, so I jumped out of the plane and took off into the sky heading towards that evil bastard William Stryker. When we got to his island, it was still night, and I could smell the smoke in the wind. Touching down on his island, I let Laura off my back, and Alfred jumped off here. Then she grunted at me like that was supposed to make up for some sort of thanks. Use your words, Laura. It's thanks for the ride and taking me. Then I reply that you are welcome. I was trying not to lose my temper with her, since she has been locked up in a base with nothing but training for her formative years. All she did was growl and pop her claws at me like that was supposed to scare me. Hell, I get stabbed by Logan every time we spar. So I evened the playing field and made my 6-arm construct and popped claws on all the hands. Though that was unimpressive for her because all she did was raise an eyebrow at my antics. She just turned away from me and lunged into the forest. I followed after her to find her taking out some guard that was on patrol for his keycard. We don't need those, we have him. With that statement, I pointed to Alfred, and he brought out an arm to wave at her. Since I had to leave the sword on the plane, it was time to go back to the good old-fashioned claws. I tapped my back to inform her to hop on, and then we went through the whole island taking out everyone. We found Stryker had already retreated to his bunker and wasn't going to come back out for us to remove his head. Alfred had already shut down all communications in and out of the island, but I wasn't pleased in knowing that he was in a bunker. Hard lines are something no one can take out without knowing where they are hooked in from. That thought set off my mad laughter because I don't need to know where the hard lines are if I pump the island systems with my lightning, blasting it all apart. Laura was giving me a look reserved for the truly insane, but that was fine since I was after a rabbit in his hole. Stand back, it's about to get electric. With that, I focused on just the lightning. I didn't want another AI to be born from whatever they had in their systems. That would be nasty and world-ending. With my hands in the fuse box, I juiced the whole island until everything overloaded. Though I did discover a new ability because as I was pushing power into the grid, I felt myself loosen as if I could travel through the lines. I guessed, in theory, I could transform my matter and travel that way, but this was not the time to test out hypotheses. Maybe a safe lab just in case I lose a leg I can grow it back in peace and not with people shooting at me. I heard the hard safety door creak even from my location at the fuse box, but the sound that came next did cause me to chuckle. There were screaming and shouting, then I heard gunshots. I knew I shouldn't take joy in the deaths of evil men, but what kind of person would I be if I didn't enjoy a job well done? I walked into the bunker and found Stryker still alive surprisingly, although Laura had taken off both his hands and legs. Good for her. Why haven't you finished him? You started, you finish. And with that, she walked back out the bunker. Damn, that girl was hardcore, but I am happy I was able to save her from killing her mother like in the comics. It was going to be one long road to anything she can even remotely call normal, but that's okay. Damn you, freaking mutant. Man, that was some shitty last words he had, and I didn't want to listen to them anymore. I brought my hand up and charged up a ball of lightning. This was going to be maximum destruction, and I wanted to feed it to him point-blank range. Leaning in towards him, the proper term is meta-human, you piece of crap. Then I laid the lightning ball into his body, frying all his nerves, making sure it savaged his body while he was alive to feel it. His body exploded from the overload of power, and I made sure not to get any on me. It wouldn't do to get chunks of an evil bastard on me. I found Laura out on the beach looking into the night sky, but there was no need for words between us. We stayed like that for a while, then it was time to burn it all to the ground and head home. The fastest man alive, loose ends. Benjamin Blake / superfast semi-functional moron / genius / heroish. It had been a month since the smashing of Stryker and his bases, and there was still nothing on the news about it. The only thing that came out of the whole situation was Michelle asking me pointed questions, which I in turn ignored, but I was pretty sure Gwen knew. Gwen didn't ask me what Michelle was talking about, but that was fine. The last thing I needed at the moment was more drama in my love life while I was trying to run a thriving multi-billion-dollar company. There was no sign that the world was hungering for nanotechnology or hologram technology at all. Once I placed the computer, table, and holophone on the open market, it was a smashing success, running faster than a runaway train. NASA placed a contract that had far too many zeros for my cryogenics research and projects to turn down. Although every invention Star Industries placed on the open market was a moneymaker. Gwen even made her mark in the medical field with a regenerative bomb made from the Oz serum and a combination of the Webb formula. This was a good thing since Gwen wasn't too happy finding out there was no fix for the Oz serum formula, because it was fundamentally flawed to begin with. Granted, it was a combination of the super soldier formula and whatever Norman cooked up in the lab. The two were not playing nice, which was causing the mind to deteriorate and causing the patient to go psychotic. I already had thoughts on how to get her some powers, but Gwen wasn't pleased she couldn't succeed with the first try. I counted it as a success because we were able to get a full mapping of half of the super soldier formula. And that was a secret between Gwen, Jean, and myself, since there was no way I was going to share that and get the military up my ass to reproduce the bloody thing. Peter had his fateful interview at Oscorp today, and I was in a park right around the corner watching from my tablet while completing the final draft of my suit and a few other things. The current draft of the suit was my 2.0 version. I required a fully functioning computer within its systems, so I had to build a harness from scratch housed in adamantium to make sure internals were protected. Hard hits like missiles and every other crazy thing have come my way since I donned the name Lightspeed. The gangs of New York weren't getting scared, they were getting more and more guns. They were also getting smarter, like pulling multiple heists around the city all at the same time. Whoever was behind them came to the realization I couldn't use comms and go super speeds at the same time. So my current worry was figuring out the true crime when they all get reported all at once. But other than that, I was still taking down the carjacker or the alley mugger. Though they weren't my concern today. Today all of my attention was on one Peter Parker and how to get 3 layers of carbon composite nanofiber, and my unique crystal composite to all compress into one solid fabric. The atomic nature of what I was working with wasn't bonding properly, and Hank Pym was ignoring all of my calls. Something about working with upstart punks and he was retired. Too bad for him I had some of my nanobots infiltrate his home with directives to ignore the ants and to not get caught by them. Currently, I only had half of the Pym formula, and it was turning into a pain in the ass because the half I had wasn't following any known laws of physics. I didn't have enough time to sit down and rewrite the whole thing though. I would have to give it my undivided attention next because it can solve a lot of problems I was having. Being able to shrink down to the atomic level to fix and create any structures I want with complete stability was fast becoming a wish of mine. The Pym particles would also take my nanotech to the next level, and I wasn't going to let Hank Pym stand in my way. Maybe it was also time to infiltrate Pym Industries and see what Darren Cross has and then compare it. While I was watching Peter wait in the lobby of Oscorp Towers, I was going over how to create a reflective, augmented reality smart lens for public consumption, while also doubling as the lens to my helmet so I don't have to keep looking at my wrist-mounted hologram. She walked by, and I do mean walked by because I knew that ass. Anyone knows that ass. But what made matters worse was that she sat next to me sending me a flirtatious smile. All I could feel was a chill run down my spine. When Fury had shown up at my house, I decided to find where she was, so I hunted down every information within S.H.I.E.L.D. servers to find her. All I found was that she was not even an agent, to begin with. Even to this day they still hold a kill on site order. With that knowledge, I had Alfred track her down no matter how long it took because if S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't have her, I wanted her as my right hand. I spent over 15 million to get the contacts to find her, and still, she evaded me. Though her last job gave her away and Alfred has had a track on her ever since, but I wasn't happy with that last job at all. Yes, I was delighted she turned down a school bombing to take out a principal. But the assassination she performed left an awful taste in my mouth. I knew she was here for my head. Norman had put out a $10 million contract out on me, and she was in America from her last job. Case me for a few weeks, and most people would take me for some nerdy rich kid that swoons at anything. Maybe that's why she was in her blonde getup and looked so delicious in those yoga pants. Sitting across from me was a 22-year-old Natalia Alienovna Natasha Romanova. I can't lie, she looked good for someone only 5 years out of the Red Room. I couldn't fall for it though, and I had to remember how she performed that last assassination on her target. The autopsy report had that his urethra still had seminal fluid and was coated with a female vaginal fluid of the O+ blood type. She had killed that man mid-splush, and I wasn't going to become the next. Good morning, Natasha. It's nice to finally meet you. Although I thought you were ignoring my request for a meeting. She tried to play it off, but I was far too focused on her. And there was no way I was going to allow her to slice my throat today. I had chosen this secluded spot in the park because of its lack of cameras, but it looks like she also had the same plans on eliminating me. Her breathing didn't change, nor did her eye twitch. What gave her away was my sight. I noticed that different types of people had different kinds of bioelectricity running through them. I could tell if a person was healthy or sick just from their internal flow and a few other things I was slowly experimenting with and figuring out. What gave her away was the slight flare in her right hand along her hips, which I'm guessing has a hidden knife even though her arm didn't move in that direction. She mentally wanted to, and that was the tell. Sorry, I don't know any Natashas, but you can know my name, it's Megan. She smiled as she held out her hand for me to shake it. With a sigh, I shook her hand, no reason to be rude. Since she is here, I might as well make my pitch. With a press of a few buttons on my tablet, a dead zone was activated around the whole park. Some of the joggers yelped in pain as their headset, and other devices all blasted out white noise and shut down. Humming to myself, I watched and waited while most of the park's occupants left after all their devices all messed up. That got a twitch out of her though, and it made me smile. Calm down, Natasha, I am just clearing out some people so we can chat. Showing her the tablet and how it was showing the park current covered in red. I am creating a blackout zone just for us. With that, she raised an eyebrow at me. With the park cleared out, it was time to make my offer and hope to all hell it was Black Widow that wanted redemption. It would be a waste to kill her and lose all that knowledge in her head. So Miss Romanova, we are now in the clear to speak. And with that, I smiled at her since I was slowly revealing that I knew far more than I should. I was still working out the design for my helmet, but I noticed from the side of my peripheral vision her getting stiff from that admittance. No need to freak out, I am the contact fast feet. We have a meeting 5 months from now, but thanks to Norman you're here. With that, I placed the tablet and my work to the side. Let's be honest and up front. I require your services, and I don't mean a single contract here and there. I want you on retainer and working for me. In return, I can solve that graduation gift of the Red Room. That got me her full undivided attention, and if I weren't already juiced up on the Speed Force, I would never have been able to track when she moved for the knife. I watched as she moved in slow motion while she pulled it out from the back of her yoga pants, then came after me in one fluid motion of movement. It was one thing to hear about it and another to watch the Black Widow in action. This was a dance, and I was supposed to be a very unwilling participant, and at the end of this dance of death was to be my preordained death. Unfortunately for her, I was not an average human anymore. And I have been far removed from average for some time. When her leg kicked out from my chest, I moved up with it, pushing her leg up onto my shoulder, placing us in a very compromising position. You know, just killing me when I am trying to help isn't very nice. Natasha didn't even reply, she just pulled another knife out of I don't know where and went for the family jewels. My survival was due to my reaction time, otherwise, I would have become a dead man. I went for both her knives, and I found 36 more on her in some very, very nice places. I even had to disarm a small pistol strapped to her ankle. The only knife I left was the one connected to the inner wire of her bra. Placing all her tools on the bench, I carried her over my shoulder and threw her at the nearest tree still in sight of the park bench. Bless her heart, Natasha took the throw, grabbed onto a tree branch, and swung right back at me. Though I was at my limits, with a sidestep to avoid her, I gave her a boot right to the back, pushing her away and pulling out my insurance to make her listen to reason. Other than wanting to kill me to erase all traces of knowledge about the Red Room. I held up the vial of golden liquid that I was never going to release on the market. This golden liquid was a concentrated dose of my healing factor from my blood. This isn't and will never be on the open market, but I know you did your research on my company and me. You're aware we have a healing solution on the market, right? She was now still like she was a statue, and it was slightly creepy. I could tell she was trying to figure out how I was able to outmaneuver her while going over all the information she had on me. The one thing I didn't do in public was use my powers, and so I am sure she just deduced I was a metahuman and was considering ways to escape. Her eyes snapped to the vial in my hands, and I could see the gears working in her head, though she was still standing like a statue. I have also checked about your little healing solution. There is nothing in its medical disclosure that says it can. Very true, Nat. Can I call you Nat? Anyway, we had to reduce the concentrated effects so that the other big pharmaceuticals don't kill it on arrival. That's why it works on wounds and doesn't heal everything. This golden liquid was derived from my blood and powers. It packs far more of a kick. When they make the expression, you can see the hope in someone. I always wondered how that would look on a person's face. Natasha had such a focused intensity on the vial in my hands, it was beyond scary. Like if I hadn't removed the knives from her, I would lose my hand at any moment for what I was carrying. She was silent, eerily silent, and I refused to break this silence. Then she finally spoke after killing me in many different ways. Name your price. I need you in my employ, to be honest. I need a right hand that can help me with a lot that I can't do because of my status. At that statement, she raised an eyebrow at me. You want me to work for you? You do understand I am a wanted assassin, right? And what about the contract on your head? Don't worry about it. Norman has outlived his uses to me. When he gift-wrapped you to me, I realized it was time to end Norman's interference he can cause before it happens. I was positive that my refusal to sell Osborne a part of my company caused him to be more than a little incensed. And I am sure it didn't help that we released Gwen's little creation on the open market, and it had some of the markers from his Oz formula. Can you even pay my price? I am a young billionaire, Nat. I can not only pay your price, but I will raise it with things you can never imagine. I know your ledger is dripping red and I can help cleanse that. I tossed over the vial filled with the golden liquid to her. I can also give you back what you have desperately wanted for years. Home and family. This sounds like making a deal with the devil, she stated, which caused me to smile. Don't be like that, Nat. We are both devils. We do what we must to succeed, although I will never ask you to do something like what you did in your last mission. I will never rent out your services or ever want you to complete a mission in that manner. So you waste millions just to give me a job offer and to heal me. Why? Everyone deserves a second chance, and child soldiers deserve one even more. That statement caused her to stiffen up. Yeah, I finally got her because no one should know that critical tidbit of information about her. And my contract with Norman? He will be dead before the day's out, so I will double it. This allows you to put out that his death defaulted the contract, so the widow never broke a contract. You have a lot of answers for a kid that's supposed to be new to all this. Honestly, I don't. I am just trying to give a helping hand and avoid something worse in the future. At that admittance, she raised an eyebrow at me, so I had to elaborate more for her. My family isn't currently like I am. So if someone hires people to get rid of them, they're finished. I have some contingency plans for those events, but I want and need the best in the business to make sure everyone's safe, and cover holes that I will miss. You're going to trust me around your family? I am going to take a leap of faith in your humanity. You did turn down that school job. This is your second chance. Are you going to take it or let it pass you by? And with that, my tablet went off, which meant something was happening. I was next to the tablet within moments. You're him, aren't you? The guy calling himself Lightspeed. She spoke up, walking next to me. I smiled at her as I watched Peter go down during one of Norman's little show and tells, trying to impress him. I knew why he went down, because he just got bitten by the spider, and I needed that spider. Hell, I was going to take all those spiders, and there was nothing Norman can do about it. Hold this, please, giving the tablet to Natasha. I went towards the Oscorp Tower for another speed heist. I already knew Peter was going to be okay. He has always survived getting his powers. So I was going to use this opportunity to get his spider and the rest. I was in through the doors and up the steps before a fly could flutter its wings. They were on the 32nd floor when I was watching the video. While I was in motion, I double-checked my bag to be sure I had everything that was needed. I had 10 jars total to make sure that no two spiders were in the same containment. It wouldn't do to have them kill or eat each other when I had waited so long for this day. That situation would suck after all the planning and waiting I had to go through. When I entered through the fire escape stairwell, Peter was still down on the ground, and Norman had that displeased look on his face. While I went past him, I created a kinetic force egg and pushed it into his chest cavity. It wasn't going to explode now, but I was going to keep an active connection to it. This way, I can remote detonate him from a distance. Preferably when I am somewhere, cameras can see me, to help keep suspicions about my involvement down. Ignoring them now that I had Norman taken care of, I found the spider that had bitten Peter making its way towards a duct vent. Capturing it first, I placed it with the label of Love Potion 69. This was the same spider that bit Cindy Moon and made them irresistible to each other. With that taken care of, I went into the holy grail of genetic miracles that no one is even aware of: Oz serum genetic spiders with sprinkles of super soldier mix into their DNA sequences. I grabbed the number 42 spider first, and then the 36 next. I have read so many Spider-Man comics that I was aware of all the spiders that came with powers across the comics multiverse. Even the spiders that showed up in the Marvel Central Canon 616 universe giving powers. With my bag filled with my gloriously liberated loot, it was time to go. I gave Peter one last look, hoping that my being here didn't change anything regarding his fate. After some contemplation, it was time to leave, I had done enough already today. I was back in the park with Natasha before she was even able to get a full grasp on the tablet I gave her. "So you are Lightspeed," she spoke to me while making her way to the bench with all her weapons. "So are you going to take the deal?" I couldn't help but ask. Alfred can only cover so much as tech was involved, and I was trying not to tag my family and friends with nano-trackers whenever they needed to leave the house or company grounds, since that was a significant invasion of privacy. It was bad enough I had all their phones tracked. "How do you know so much about me?" "I'm certain what you know isn't in any file online, and all who know are dead." I made sure of that fact. "We both know I can't tell you that unless you're going to be a part of my team." She snorted at that statement and started to pick up her mini arsenal of knives and hidden ankle pistol. She even bent over to place a few knives away, giving me a perfect view of that nice ass of hers. Though I was enjoying the view, I knew what this was. It was a test to see how easily Natasha could play me. Too bad for her, I already had my fair share of that bullcrap. Fool me once, shame on you, because once I got fooled, you can't fool me again. As she did her saucy little stretch and up yoga move, she smirked at me and raised an eyebrow at me. "You see anything you like?" "Yeah, far too dangerous, alright, yes, I do actually, but this between you and me is not going to happen." Then she gave me that smile only the Black Widow could perform, and, combined with that face and body, it was devastating. "What makes you say that? You have been through enough, and I have far too much respect for you to just accept such bait." That brought her up short, and she got deadly serious with me again. "You're serious about this job offer then? And this isn't some game for you?" "Nat, I am deadly serious with you. I have people to kill and people to protect. I have billions in tech that's going to rival Stark soon, but what I don't have is a right hand I can confide all my plans to. I need someone to have my blind side, cover for all the things I can't see coming. I need you as much as you need me." Then I sat back down and went over the designs for the suit I was hoping she was going to wear. It was another nano-carbon fiber weave with an underlayer and overlayer of composites with a shock-absorbent variant of the web formula as a coating. This was modeled after her Infinity War variant with a combat vest built in. I was also designing a pair of web shooters and utility belt that went with it. Can't have my people go around without nice toys. "That's some fancy toys you're making. What is that?" "A grappling hook." Of course, the shiny toys attracted her attention. They are called web shooters, extremely versatile. Capable of disabling anyone at the baseline human level and those above, if used properly. This is just one of the things I have created that can't be found anywhere on the open market. With that, I gave her the tablet to browse through the rest of the goodies. I had everything in there from the specialized railgun pistol just for her called the Sunshot. It fired semi-auto at about 150 RPM. The Sunshot wasn't firing any standard rounds. It was supercharged with my infinite lightning and firing some very nasty concentrated bolts. It only came with full devastation, and there was no stun setting on this gun. Then the tamer stuff like a staff that can be pulled apart for the Tonfa variant. I even included a list of powers she might like. "You know you're far too trusting," she said warningly. "I am placing faith in you. So what will it be, Miss Romanova?" And with that, I stood up and held my hand out to her. "What about my wanted status?" she asked. "That can easily be taken care of. Since I had raided Stryker's bases, they came with names and some beneficial information on a few senators, congressmen, and some billionaires. All I need now is another piece of the puzzle, and I can hit the world stage running. Do what you have promised and I am yours, Benjamin Blake." And with that, she took my hand and stood at my side. "That is unnecessary, Nat. That vial I gave you will help heal the natural wear and tear your body has suffered over the years. Now just to let you know, that is only half the key to the puzzle of how to solve your situation. The other half is held by a doctor whose research I have been keeping a very close eye on. She is working for a think tank currently, and they have placed her in a deep dark hole. We will locate her, and you shall have the other half of the puzzle key. Alfred, tell the driver to come to pick us up." With that, I gathered my belongings and walked to the front of the park for my driver. "Who is this doctor that has the other half, and who is Alfred?" Natasha asked me while stretching. Her stretching was doing some very nice things for my eyes to enjoy. The doctor's name is Maya Hansen, and she is working on a little project called Extremis. One on its own is extremely volatile. It can cause the recipient to explode, but with our addition to it, we have solved the energy dissipation. Maya Hansen is unfortunately in a location we can't reach as of yet. Also, Alfred is a sentient AI, first in the world. The only thing even remotely close to him is Stark's Jarvis AI that runs his company. That reminds me, Alfred, give her access to the black servers. Also, let's press on those names we retrieved from Stryker. Cut a deal for Natasha. Contact Fury and let him know she is now off limits, and I will deal with a few missions. My driver came around with the car, while Natasha just raised her eyebrow at me. You have access to the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nat said disbelievingly. Deciding not to answer until after we got in the car was better, since it had my privacy shields. Good afternoon, Alan. Good afternoon yourself. So did you enjoy the park? Also, why don't you introduce me to your friend? Ma'am, good afternoon. You can call me Alan, came his gruff voice from the front. Rolling my eyes at the man, I made my introductions, and he left us to it after that, with instructions to take us to the hospital. With my work for the day now out of the way, it was time to relax. You will find out later about the infamous Fury and our crappy connection. Just know that you will no longer get hassled by them. And with that, she relaxed into the seat next to me. Or that was what she wanted me to believe. I could tell that she was coiled like a spring to instantly attack or defend if necessary. We had gotten to the hospital after Peter was dropped off by one of Norman's drivers. Norman didn't even show up. Who had shown up alongside Peter was some lawyer trying to get him to sign a waiver. That prick. Norman wanted Peter to sign away blame of injury on Oscorp's property, and that crap sparked my anger. I wanted to pop the bomb in Osborn's chest and get rid of him instantly, but Natasha calmed down my rage before I exploded at the lawyer and made Norman go boom. Uncle Ben signed the papers since he was the guardian of Peter, and with that, the lawyer left. I gave Aunt May a hug and Uncle Ben a handshake, then I made the introductions to my new secretary and liaison. They just ate her up, and it was amazing to see her work on people that had no clue who and what she was, choosing to ignore her and let her mingle her way into their hearts since she will be around a lot. It's best for her to gain some familial connections, and the Parkers were the best starting point. The doctor came in and told us it was only an allergic reaction, and it wasn't anything lethal. Although the doctor said that, Peter didn't look too good, but I already knew what was happening. His DNA was merging with whatever was in the spider. So with the doctor's dismissal, which I'm thinking Norman must have had something to do with, Peter was being pushed out without them even asking for overnight observation. I helped him to the car while Uncle Ben and Aunt May chatted up Natasha. With the family dropped off at their house in Queens, it was time to pull my next move. I had the number 42 spider in my hand spinning while it ran around with a clear numbering on its back. Natasha, would you like to be a meta-human? I asked her while looking out the window at the passing lights. What's a meta-human? Elaborate, please. She was again watching me like a hawk ready to bolt. They call people like myself mutants, but that isn't the correct term. I plan to protect metahumans like myself, heal those that are broken, and kill those responsible. I also want to advance the world forward one step at a time, and when we have advanced enough, reach for the stars. My buddy Peter will wake up a metahuman tomorrow, all thanks to this. With that, I held up the spider that would have been Miles Morales if I wasn't around to interfere with things. Her eyes locked onto the spider with laser focus, and I thought I heard her breath catch, but that could have easily been my imagination. This is a project of Norman's that he scrapped, but I have been keeping a very close eye on its development. Norman wanted to prove he could produce genetically altered life forms, but they are far more valuable than something so trivial. Now it was time to drop some comic knowledge on it and how she bites. This one in particular grants the recipient bioelectric shocks, wall crawling like any spider, super strength and enhanced durability and senses. Natasha's eyes didn't leave the small jar as I was twirling it around in my hands. This will be yours, all you have to do is ask. I have plans for the rest, but I will allow this one to be yours. This little beauty also comes with minor healing. Alan had pulled up to a hotel overlooking Freedom Plaza, where the Baxter building was located. Alan, take these back to the company. Keep them away from Gwen for now, although I am sure Gwen will be notified of their arrival. Give it to one of Alfred's Tachikoma bodies and have him put them away. Don't trust her with the spiders? Natasha asked as we went for the elevators, heading to one of the penthouse suites. I promised her powers, but none of these have the ability of flight. I don't want to tempt her until after we can reproduce everything. I spoke while pressing the button for my suite floor. So you are going to give me powers, but not your girlfriend? She asked, raising an amused eyebrow at me. You will be far more effective with these powers at your disposal. Remember, I am taking a leap of faith. With my key, we had no issues getting into the suite. With a message to my family, I let them know I wasn't going to come home tonight. The jar was sitting on the table with Natasha sitting regally in her chair like royalty. Paying Natasha no mind, I went out onto the balcony to peer out into the city, and not too far away was the Baxter building. With all the money I took from Stryker, I owned a controlling stake on the board of directors. All that was needed was the big dimensional explosion for me to get the rest of the shares and fold them into Star Industries. While I was in my musings of things to come and things to be aware of, Natasha spoke up from behind me. I will do it. You say this thing will give me powers. I will take that leap of faith you're going on about. And with that, she removed the top and pushed her hands inside. The spider instantly reacted to her hand's presence within the jar, and immediately bit her. I had my sight active to watch the change take effect, and man, it was almost instant. I watched the spider's bite from her hand spread and wrap around her nervous system. Then as it went to work changing the rest of her, I caught Natasha before she could fall over. The spider bolted for escape, but I was far ready for him, and he went back into the jar. After making sure the spider was secure, I brought Natasha to the bedroom and placed her under the covers. She laughed at that. I thought you said I wasn't going to end up in your bed. That raised a chuckle out of me though. Just relax and go to sleep. We have a lot to do once you recover. With her taken care of, I went back to the living room to relax on the couch and finish up the touches to her suit. My Russian redhead was going to need a lot more toys. Sir, Tony Stark's convoy has suffered an ambush. He is currently presumed dead. Came Alfred's voice from my tablet. That put a smile on my face. When the news breaks, everyone is going to short Stark Industries stock. Buy as much as we can so that we have controlling interest in Stark Industries. Make sure you get to it before Obadiah Stane. Shut down his systems if you have to, but I want a controlling part of that company. It felt nice throwing around so much money, but I almost forgot something important. Closing my eyes, I follow the tether between myself and the kinetic bomb I placed within Norman. It was time to wrap up loose ends. Norman Osborn was on the same floor Peter had gotten his spider bite, yelling at some scientist. Probability over the missing spiders that I now had in my possession. I focused on the kinetic energy shell and fed it power. Be-boom. Sheesh, I felt the explosion even from here. So much for the Green Goblin situation. Alfred, make sure to purchase all of Dr. Otto Octavius's research into creating a miniature artificial solar nuclear fusion. Also, let's make him a job offer since his last employer seems to have exploded. Would you like me to send condolences to Harry Osborn, sir? Sure, let's be civilized about it. Why not? With that, I just tossed my tablet aside. It was time to relax. With Tony gone, Stane will become reckless, allowing me to grab a large chunk of the company for myself. And with Norman gone, the primary threat left in the city was the Hand and the Kingpin. Now I have to wait for the Fantastic Four to show up. I love it when a plan comes together. What an 18-day.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.